Hongdo really liked Xiao Lan's gift. She even remarked that it was the best gift she had ever received. Xiao Lan noticed Princess Zishan sitting behind him. It was quite strange. A couple of days ago, she and Xiao Lan had a good relationship. But now it was as if they were two strangers. Master Zuo scoffed at Xiao Lan, speculating what kind of gift he had given to Hongdo. Xiao Lan said that it was none of his business, and he could feed the master another chicken leg. Young Master Quan said that His Majesty had ordered that Xiao Lan could not join any academy. Master Zuo added that if it were his will, Xiao Lan would be banished from the city immediately. Master Quan didn't finish his trepidation and added, saying, "When Xiao Buxi returns, he will immediately kick out trash such as Xiao Lan." Master Zuo scoffed at Xiao Lan's useless soul and talked about how he would never become strong and would rot in a small village. Xiao Lan stopped the conversation of the masters and threw the wine cup on the ground in displeasure. Xiao Lan swept up the high quality of the alcohol, but said that some people tried so-and-so to ruin his evening. But Xiao Lan didn't want to give up and added that he would only give up through his death. Zhuo Ming was the strongest in the hall, but in his last fight with Xiao Lan, he had almost bid farewell to his life. With such a success, no one would dare to fight Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan asked if anyone wanted to fight him. Everyone was silent, and he added that everyone in the hall was just a flock of sheep. Xiao Lan turned around to Madame Hongdo and generously thanked her for her kindness, hospitality, and wished her happy birthday again, then intended to leave. Princess Zishan was also leaving and asked Xiao Lan to escort her out. Xiao Lan agreed, and both of them left the hall. Zhuo Ming was very angry and wanted to use double cultivation speed to become stronger than Xiao Lan and kill him within a year. Already outside the hall, Zishan was already chatting with Xiao Lan. She recalled the fun times they had when they were in the pavilion. Zishan talked about her difficulties of being in the royal family, and added that cooling towards Xiao Lan was not her decision to make. Xiao Lan didn't respond with many words to the princess. To all her words, he simply said that he understood. Princess Zishan said that she really liked Xiao Lan, and if he could solve the spirit problem, then they could be together. But Xiao Lan had a different answer. He thanked the Highness for her words, and said that he was destined to be trash all his life. Xiao Lan went his own way, and Zishan remembered the words she had said to her about Xiao Lan, saying she couldn't blindly run after emotions and Xiao Lan wasn't worth anything. On the way home, Xiao Lan thought about what had happened. He thought that Zishan was at least a little bit of a friend to him, but it turned out that she wasn't, and he shouldn't have fallen under the influence of beauty anymore. Xiao Lan decided to go train instead of going home. 10-Star Peak was nearby, and Xiao Lan decided to head there. Xiao Lan summoned Big Brother Chen Shun, after which Chen Shun immediately arrived, wondering what Xiao Lan wanted. Chen Shun received orders from Xiao Lan. He was to go back to the house and tell Auntie where Xiao Lan was training, and also to give word of it to Xiao Dao and bring him over if he was interested. Chen Shun pointed out that 10-Star Peak was an extremely dangerous place, but Xiao Lan said that he wasn't that weak. In the end, both of them went their separate ways. Xiao Lan arrived at 10-Star Peak and immediately found the mystical beast. After looking at it, Xiao Lan realized that it was a third-level mythical beast. It was perfect for Xiao Lan, and the time came to try a new soul for Xiao Lan. He ran towards the beast and released his soul. Xiao Lan didn't expect the beast to wake up so quickly. In this case, he couldn't dodge and needed to fight head-on. The big white beast with red eyes became furious and jumped at Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan, on the other hand, was in a desperate situation. Xiao Lan decided to resort to using his soul in the hope that it would help him. And fortunately, his risk paid off. The large hair-like beast was killed with a single blow. Finally, Xiao Lan saw that his soul was not useless at all. His spirit is very strong. Xiao Lan turned to the grass, knowing that he was not a useless soul, and asked about his spirit technique. The blade of grass began to wriggle. Xiao Lan said that he wasn't stupid and understood. Mola's soul definitely had it. Just as suddenly, the grass stretched and pulled somewhere deep into the forest. Xiao Lan didn't understand anything, but decided to wait it out. The blade of grass grabbed the hair. She brought it into Xiao Lan's hands, he suggested. Could the grass really grab something quickly? But his assumption was disproved. Xiao Lan was shocked as the rabbit's body turned into bones in a matter of seconds. As it turned out, the blade of grass could suck the life out of other creatures. It was an amazing ability. In Xiao Lan's mind, this ability was terrifying. If he were to sneak up on strong cultivators and expel his soul, Xiao Lan would be invincible. Xiao Lan stroked the blade of grass and said that this was the kind of strength he expected from it. After that, he offered to hunt in hopes of seeing other abilities. In the end of a small search, Xiao Lan found himself behind a rock and was watching another mythical beast. Xiao Lan's spirit could only stretch 3 meters. The mystic beast in front of him was a level 3. Xiao Lan's plan was to ambush it first. But if that didn't work, then Xiao Lan would resort to soul possession. After getting ready, Xiao Lan gave a command to his grass and jumped out of the ambush, whereupon his grass began to elongate. Their plan worked perfectly. The mystical beast was snatched right into the clutches of the grass. In just a few seconds, the beast was nothing but a pile of bones. The power of the herb was proven once again. The grass was too cruel. But as long as Xiao Lan could get close to the target, he was invincible. But Xiao Lan was distracted by his mystical beast Xiao Bai. It flew in its bird form around Xiao Lan. As it turned out, Chen Xun and Xiao Dao were just looking for Xiao Lan using Xiao Bai in his bird form. Chen Xun and Xiao Dao saw what Xiao Lan had done and immediately started asking how such a thing was possible. Xiao Lan wanted to test something and asked Xiao Dao to hit him with all his might in transformed form. After a little persuasion, Xiao Dao agreed and rushed at Xiao Lan in an attempt to attack in a reinforced manner. Xiao Lan was confident in his idea and ordered his soul to come out. He wanted to try his soul for both attack and defense. In the end of the collision, Xiao Dao's punch was completely stopped thanks to Xiao Lan's soul. Xiao Dao and Chen Xun were completely shocked and wanted to know how Xiao Lan did it. Xiao Lan said that it turns out his soul is not trash, and maybe even stronger than the divine soul. At first, Xiao Lan thought that he had awakened a useless soul, but after being possessed by the divine spirit, Xiao Lan became 2 levels higher and his training speed tripled. Not only could the spirit be used to decompose living beings, he didn't have any spiritual techniques, but Xiao Lan believed that there were even more abilities to discover. This meant that he had obtained an innate spirit. Based on Xiao Lan's assumption, even Xiao Dao had an innate spirit from a long time ago. That's why he transformed. In the end, Chen Xun, Xiao Dao and Xiao Lan agreed to keep it all a secret and went to continue practicing. Xiao Dao spotted the armored lizard and warned the boys of the impending danger. Previously, the lizard had caused a lot of trouble for the guys, but now they would show their new strength. Xiao Lan asked Chen Yuxun to scout the area. Xiao Dao had to show what he could do. Xiao Dao transformed and attacked the lizard. Xiao Dao grabbed the armored lizard by its tail and hooked his hands into it with all his might. Xiao Lan praised Xiao Dao's good work and took this opportunity as their chance for the perfect attack. After which, Xiao Lan was able to release a multitude of purple roots towards the armored lizard men. Pretty quickly, they enveloped the lizard's entire body and left it without the ability to either or move. Xiao Lan told Xiao Dao to let the lizard go. And through teamwork, they were able to immobilize the beast. Qianxun, who had been inspecting the area all this time, let Xiao Lan know that there was another armored lizard nearby. Letting go of the lizard, Xiao Lan decided to display a true miracle of his soul power. On both sides of Xiao Lan's hands, dozens of purple grass roots were released and began to curl up. Xiao Lan merely waved his hand, and the grass immediately covered the armored lizard's entire body. The ambush attack had the greatest effect on the enemy. Xiao Lan's advantage in a face-to-face confrontation was not obvious. As a result, such an armored lizard took about an hour to fully decompose. Xiao Dao threw a greenish vial to Xiao Lan. It was some kind of medicine for Xiao Lan. A joyous Xiao Lan grabbed the vial and ordered the soul to return after the armored lizard decomposes. Upon returning, the blade of grass had changed its shape slightly and was very happy after eating the mystical beast away. Qianshan noticed that Xiao Lan's spirit had grown slightly. Because of Chen Shun's type of dexterity, he was more sensitive to growth. Xiao Lan was even more surprised. Apparently, grass could grow after devouring the mystical beast. Hearing these words, the purple grass on Xiao Lan's hand nodded in agreement. This news made Xiao Lan even more excited. If he let the grass develop, he would be able to ambush people from hundreds of meters away. Qianxun agreed, and implied that even someone like Huo Feng wouldn't be worth Xiao Lan's time. Xiao Dao was also very happy for Xiao Lan. So happy that he was quite loud and scared away the nearby birds. The boys' attention was distracted by the men approaching them. They were alert in case of a fight. They were the forest defenders of the royal family. They reminded us that unauthorized infiltrators would be executed. Qianxun said that the defenders were too rough. Xiao Lan, the young master of the Xiao family, had only trained in this forest. The defenders apologized, but said that the beasts were trained for the royal family. Xiao Lan threw the bag of money on the ground and asked the guards not to make a loud argument. Xiao Lan also asked the officers to keep silent about their arrival. Allegedly, Xiao Lan would not disturb them again, after which the trio left. and the guards wished Xiao Lan and the others good luck on their journey. But since Xiao Lan had hurt young Master Zuo badly, the guard wanted to immediately report the matter to the family. Xiao Lan will go to Xiao Mountain, and even if something happens, no one will know about it. Already on Mount Xiyao, Xiao Dao was already beating up mystic beasts in his transformed form. But just like that, Chen Shun was also practicing his spirit of speed, deftly cutting everyone with his sword. Xiao Lan continued to decompose all sorts of beasts that were caught under the roots of his purple grass. Everyone was already tired, and Xiao Lan said that it was the perfect time for a break. Chen Shun and Xiao Dao could rest, and Xiao Lan would deal with the rest of it. Xiao Dao said that he wasn't tired and just wanted to find something to eat, while Chen Shun decided to rest at this time. Xiao Lan needed to use this opportunity to break through and give his grandfather a big surprise when he returned. The scout informed the master that Xiao Lan was training on the peak of the 9 stars with a bodyguard and an idiot, and soon he went to the Xiyao Mountains. The woman remarked that this was a great chance. Xiao Lan was away from the capital, and her big brother couldn't miss it. Master Zuoming thought a good plan against Xiao Lan. After all, the latter is a schemer, and to battle him, it was not worth attacking thoughtlessly. The sister added that Zuoming was much stronger than Xiao Lan. But even so, at best he could use the Dragon Soul Pill and get to the top-tier war expert level, plus his sister would be with him. Master Zuoming liked his sister's plan, and decided to do just that. But he would also take the warriors with him. Soon, everyone had already gone on a mission to kill Xiao Lan. This time, Master Zuo was prepared for battle. Qingyi drank tea and pondered about his father. For quite a long time, there hadn't been a single piece of news from him. Elder Chan ran into Qingyi's room and shouted that they had very bad news. As it turned out, they received news from Suxian City. The leader of the Xiao clan had tragically died. From hearing this, Qingyi fainted, and Elder Chan ran to find a doctor for her. Hearing this news, the emperor himself was shocked. He could not believe that one of the 5 strongest people in the dynasty, the master of the dynasty, an emperor-level cultivator, Xiao Bushi, had died, according to the news that the Xiao family received. Xiao Bushi was ambushed with 300 warriors from the Xiao family, killing all of them. The emperor immediately ordered all 3 great families and all possible cultivators to gather together. The Zuo family's quarters were shrouded in snow. Almost the entire dynasty was abuzz with the news of Xiao Bushi's death. The Zuo family's my lady was angry and sad at the same time. Even if the entire Zuo family rejected her, she would fight to become the Xiao family's wife. And if she had been around then, perhaps none of this would have happened to Xiao Bushi. Maybe he wouldn't have died. Another master spilled his drink in honor of longing for the legendary leader of the Xiao family, the sage Xiao Bushi. Already in her bunk, Qingyi finally woke up. She had been out for quite some time because of the shock. Qingyi immediately burst into tears and asked Master Chan if this was a mistake or some kind of conspiracy. Master Chan said that they had no direct evidence. They would only know the truth when they found Xiaofuto. He is the only one whose corpse has not been found. Qingyi asked her to give a message to Du Guxing, saying she was going to Beijing, and Master Chan and Chen Shun should stay in the manor. Lan and Xiao Dao were safe at the peak of the 9 stars, and as soon as Du Guxing arrives, Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao will be taken away. Master Chan obeyed the order. 2 assassins took out a guy. Turns out they killed the messenger on purpose. The Xiao family wanted to send the information to Xiao Lan, but they didn't want to let them ruin Master Zuo Ming's plan. But the assassin found out that Xiao Bushi was dead, and even if Xiao Lan died, no one would grieve for sure. There was smoke everywhere in Beijing, and the 500,000 Zhenbei army emitted an intensely murderous aura. They passed through 5 cities in a day, and the corpses of 200,000 barbarians will forever remain buried in the desert. Du Guxing said that he had to go to the capital urgently, and Jing Li was now in charge of everything in Beijing. Before leaving, Du Guxing reminded that there are now 3 government teachers in Qingyi City. If they defend stubbornly, he will not fall for anything. General Jing Li asked the master to think again, for neither the city nor the army could hold on for even a day without their leader. Du Guxing didn't even want to listen to the words of others, he firmly decided. After which, he asked Jing Ming to prepare the troops and immediately move out. The elder of the Zuo family asked the god of war to wait. She asked if he had returned to the capital with his soldiers. The situation had changed a bit, but as a commander, Du Guxing would take his soldiers and run away alone. As government teachers, they had the right to kill him right on the spot. In addition, while the Zuo family lady was detaining Beijing, The commander was leading 100,000 soldiers to the west. Did Du Guxing really want to raise a rebellion? Jingming stood up for Du Guxing and said that a commander should not justify his actions to anyone. Du Guxing calmed down his assistant and said that if the 3 state teachers wanted to kill him, they could do so. But Du Guxing needed to return to the capital city. But for the Zuo family elder, one needs at least a reason why Du Guxing wanted to return to the capital so abruptly. Du Guxing said that it was nothing special and he just wanted to return at Qing Yi's request. He couldn't find a single reason why he should have refused Qing Yi. The Zuo family's my lady was shocked. All this, and for one woman, it was surprisingly brave. Du Guxing agreed that for the sake of a woman, but not for an ordinary woman, but for the woman he loves. The Zuo County state teacher turned around and allowed Du Guxing to go to the capital for the sake of his woman. But she added that if Du Guxing was recognized as a threat to the Zhan dynasty for even a moment, he would be killed immediately. Du Guxing didn't care about the conditions. He was genuinely happy and grateful to the Zuo family's milady. The Zuo family's milady pondered why Xiao Bushi couldn't do the same for her. After all, she was willing to make any sacrifice to be with him. At the peak of the 9 stars, Xiao Lan continued his training with absorbing soul life force. He had already killed all the demonic wolves, although the vine had gotten longer, but its absorption speed hadn't gotten any faster. This was a big problem against high-level monsters. As soon as Xiao Lan wanted to face Xiao Dao, he was distracted by the guests. They immediately secretly attacked him, a boon Xiao Lan was able to dodge. Xiao Lan wanted to know who was the daredevil who was able to attack him from a sneaky ambush. The assassins said that there was no point in Xiao Lan knowing who they were, as he would die here and now. But when they ran to attack, they still confessed that they worked for the Zuo family and had to kill Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan realized the seriousness of the situation and decided to be more cautious with such a fight. Before he could finish his thought, Xiao Lan had already been attacked by a couple of assassins from the front flank and immediately struck him. The blow was quite unusual, unlike any blow without powers. Xiao Lan flew a dozen meters away from the impact, leaving a large mark in the ground from his flight. One of the assassins went to signal Xiao Lan's capture. The other was expressing his displeasure at Xiao Lan and how weak he was. A signal in the form of fireworks was released into the sky. It was big enough for Master Zuo to notice the sign. The wounded Xiao Lan wanted to recognize the person who tried to kill him before his death. The assassin said that this information would do nothing for him and wanted to cut Xiao Lan's hand first thing. But suddenly purple roots emerged from the ground and encircled the man with the katana. The offending man immediately turned into a pile of bones, and Xiao Lan, laughing, said that he was not so weak. Xiao ran to the scene of the incident and began to question Xiao Lan about his condition. Xiao Lan told about the assassination squad. Their opponent's forces were close to 100 men, and they dared to attack close to the capital city. Qianxun was ordered to go get reinforcements, while Xiao Dao and Xiao Lan would be in hiding. Xiao Dao and Xiao Lan immediately fled deep into the forest to hide, while Qianxun rushed to the capital city. The other 2 assassins noticed the acid ability and continued to pursue Xiao Lan. After all, he probably hadn't gotten far. The group of assassins searched for Xiao Lan, but their efforts were unsuccessful. Xiao Lan should have been nearby, but even so, they couldn't see him. Xiao Dao asked Xiao Lan what they should do. There were too many enemies. Xiao Lan said that they couldn't hide forever. Xiao Dao had to head west first. Survival was paramount. Xiao Lan had to ambush them, and then the 2 would take everyone on afterwards. One of the assassins noticed some rustling in the bushes and immediately informed the rest of the group of the ambush. The warriors noticed movement to the west, and the entire group moved there for an attack. After which, the assassins surrounded Xiao Lan and taunted, asking where Xiao Lan would run to this time. Xiao Lan revealed his soul and asked a counter-question. He wondered why he would want to run anywhere. The vine encircled the necks of the assassins and began to strangle them. None of the enemies could understand Xiao Lan's ability, but Xiao Lan had no intention of tolerating and listening to his enemies. The purple grass immediately ripped their heads off. These people were all ordinary assassins. Xiao Lan needed to hurry in case there was a top-level assassin here, and Xiao Dao might be in danger. Once Xiao Lan killed that wave, they were soon surrounded by another warriors who came after them. There were too many people coming for Xiao Lan. Clearly, someone from above has announced a hunt for him. The assassins blamed Xiao Lan for the diabolical murder of their friends, and supposedly now he wouldn't be able to escape. Xiao Dao, standing beside him, remarked that the best way right now was only to fight the enemies. Xiao Lan said that if he was going to die today, he at least wanted to know at whose hands it was done. Some voice among the warriors said that he would personally meet Xiao Lan. It was supposedly the organizer of the hunt. Master Zhuo Ming and his little sister came out from behind the bushes, and Master Zhuo said that they had finally met again. Xiao Lan started laughing with Master Zhuo and asked how many more times he had to beat him so that Master Zhuo would fall behind. Master Zhuo said that he wouldn't be able to wave after his death, and his Xiao family wouldn't save Xiao Lan this time. And Master Zhuo added that Xiao Bushi had died. Xiao Lan immediately became furious and started shouting that it was impossible for his grandfather to die like this. Master Zhuo's sister added that there was no point in them lying to Xiao Lan, and besides, Aunt Qingyi was under arrest, and the Xiao family was no longer helping Xiao Lan. If Xiao Lan did not believe, Master Zhuo would send him to hell to his grandfather, then ordered the warriors to attack. Xiao Lan asked Xiao Dou to kill the enemies as they had offended Xiao Bushi's grandfather and Auntie Qingyi. Xiao Dou used transformation and blazed with rage, for the enemies dared to offend the people closest to them. Master Zhuo spotted Xiao Dou and realized that it was the same werewolf that had been rumored to be the one who was the subject of many rumors. The impact from the transformation was already quite strong, and many warriors were thrown back. With the desire to kill every single one of them, Xiao Dou rushed towards Master Zhuo Ming and his sister. Master Zhuo Ming didn't even flinch as suddenly some shadow moved in front of him. Yi Xiao Dou was kicked. He immediately flew high into the air from the strong kick, and Zhuo Ming stood smugly. Xiao Dou was badly injured from the blow. He started coughing up blood and almost passed out. Xiao Lan caught the Xiao Dou flying at him. Master Zhuo's defender could throw Xiao Dou with just one strike. This was the strength of a master warrior. The protector asked as he dealt with it. No matter how much experience Xiao Lan had, he wouldn't win a master-ranked warrior. Even Xiao Lan himself realized that he was right. In the face of absolute power, all of Xiao Lan's techniques would be like paper. Master Zhuo Ming ordered Zhuo Fei Xue to bring Xiao Lan's head. The defender agreed and jumped into the attack. Xiao Lan also attacked, but before the clash, he gave Xiao Dou a command to protect him. Zhuo Fei Xue's kick hit right at Xiao Dou, who managed to protect Xiao Lan from the clash. Fortunately, Master Zhuo had brought Fei Xue with him, but he didn't expect Xiao Dou to be so strong after the transformation. Looking at Xiao Dou, the frightened Xiao Lan shouted to him to stop and wait. Xiao Dou simply asked Xiao Lan to believe in him and decided to attack on his own. Zhu Fei Xue used full armor. Xiao Dou was terrifyingly strong, but with Fei Xue's armor, nothing could handle him. Xiao Lan put down roots underground. They ended up at Zhuo Fei Xue's feet. The brothers had a good plan. Master Zhuo noticed Xiao Lan's soul and shouted to Zhuo Fei Xue to be careful. Xiao Lan threw his knives towards Zhuo Fei Xue, and they were immediately repelled without any difficulty whatsoever. But that was part of Xiao Lan's plan. The roots sprouted even more, and Zhuo Fei Xue looked away. Roots was able to envelope Zhuo Fei Xue. He captured him thanks to his plan. Xiao Dou also noticed what happened, and took it as a good moment to make his decisive strike. Finally, the joyful Xiao Dou hit Zhuo Fei Xue, who was immobilized thanks to Xiao Lan. Master Zhuo was surprised. He couldn't believe that such a high-level warrior had fallen to such weaklings. But Xiao Lan wasted no time. He jumped at the moment of a good opportunity to attack. Master Zhuo Ming asked the nearest defender to protect him and block Xiao Lan's kick. One of the assassins rushed to the front of Master Zhuo Ming and tried to attack Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan only had enough reaction to block the kick coming from the ninja. But to his own good fortune, Xiao Lan flew back to Zhuo Shi. Master Zhuo was immediately afraid for her. But not only was he scared, in such a situation, Zhuo Ming shouted to Zhuo Shi to run far away. Xiao Lan stood up and took another great opportunity. He put the knife to Zhuo Shi's throat. Xiao Lan ordered no one to move unless they wanted Zhuo Shi's head to fly off her shoulders. Zhuo Ming asked him to let Zhuo Shi go, as she would soon be the queen of their city. Hearing this, Xiao Lan was happy, because it was possible to raise the price of his hostage. Zakuming asked Xiao Lan to stop, and questioned what he would do with Zhuo Shi. Xiao Lan said that he would borrow his sister, and return her once he returned to the Xiao family. But if anyone makes a move on Xiao Lan, she will die. Everyone obeyed Xiao Lan's command and stood. At the same time, Xiao Lan ran away and said goodbye to the enemies. Master Zhuo asked where his guard Zhuo Fei Xue was. The assassin made a report, and it turned out he was dead. Zhuo Ming orders the warriors to return to the family and inform the second uncle to lead the elders to the Xiao family. Xiao Lan holds Zhuo Shi hostage and kills disciples from the Zhuo family. It was discussed in some of the houses that the Zhuo family was preparing to attack the Xiao family. The Zhuo family warriors were already finishing preparations to attack the Xiao family, such was the report. But the current Xiao family head wouldn't take care of Xiao Lan. He would definitely betray him to settle everything. Orders were given. Report to the elders and send everyone to the Xiao family to protect Xiao Lan. send a message for Dongfeng Hongdou, Princess Zishan, and the young master, Nie Tsang, to hurry, or Xiao Lan will die. Everyone was already abuzz with the conflict between the Xiao family's young master and the Zhou family's madam on Mount Siyao. In the end, Xiao Lan killed more than 10 guards and kidnapped the future queen. Even the elder of Sichuan Hall, Zhuo Fan, whose authority was only a notch below the Zhuo family, was heading there, as were many other experts. Just like that, Dongfeng Hongdou from the Dongfeng family, someone saw her crying and heading towards the Xiao family, and soon after, the famous elders from her family, also taking a group of cultivators with them, headed after her. Even Princess Zisham took a few royal court cultivators and went to the Xiao family. There was also the Ni family, the Cha family, the Nangong family. The 10 big families of the capital were on the move. This scuffle would turn into a big problem. Later, Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao found themselves in the forest with the bound Zuo Shi. Xiao Lan threatened the princess that if she moved again, he would kill her. She replied that if Xiao Lan let her go now, the Zuo family would not bother him anymore. Xiao Lan was grateful for the offer, but Xiao Lan only had one miserable life. He needed to take Qing Yi with him. So even if it was a death trap, Xiao Lan had to return to the Zhao family. Among the gathered soldiers, Elder Zuo Fan was voicing his displeasure. The Xiao family had allowed the trash to kill a dozen elite fighters in broad daylight, and hold his favorite granddaughter hostage as well. The elder of the Xiao family, Xiao Buho, said that Lady Zuo Shi would be safe and sound, and he would give the Zuo family a satisfactory answer. Hongdou watched and listened as the Xiao family elder wanted to grab Xiao Lan. Hongdou asked third uncle Dongfeng Li to protect Xiao Lan. But this was an internal matter of the Xiao family, and until he had the chance, he couldn't intervene. After hearing this, Hongdou was very depressed. She was very worried about Xiao Lan and his life. Chamu and Zishan simply marveled at the magnitude of the problem Xiao Lan was able to create. More stood in the way of Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao, all sorts of protectors sent by the Zuo family. Xiao Lan reminded them once again that enemies were not worth getting in his way at all. The defenders stood their ground and asked how Xiao Lan dared to grab the princess and immediately demanded that she be released. Xiao Lan asked what would happen if he didn't. According to the order, they were supposed to kill him if he refused. But if they didn't listen to Xiao Lan, then he would have to kill Princess Zuo Shi right now. The leader of the group of defenders that came in decided to attack Xiao Lan first. Taking out his katana, he jumped into the attack. Xiao Lan acted wisely and threw Princess Zuo Shi at the leader of the Zuo family's protector group. Frightened for the princess's life, the protector dropped his weapon and immediately tried to catch Princess Zuo Shi. This is exactly what Xiao Lan expected. He ordered the purple vine to get out of the ground to attack, and the leader was immediately stabbed through. He was killed quite quickly as the strongest of the group came in. Falling to the ground, the princess was grabbed by a purple vine. She began begging the other warriors for help. But those feared for their lives. The captain, who was very strong, so easily died from the low-ranked Xiao Lan. The warriors were at a loss from such a situation. The princess returned to Xiao Lan's hands and the captain was defeated. Xiao Lan recalled that his grandfather, Xiao Buxi, was the patriarch of the Xiao family, and he was the young master of the family. With his status, even if he had committed an incredibly vile crime, the death sentence could only be given after all the leaders had made a decision. Just like that, Xiao Lan added that it definitely wouldn't be losers like the warriors standing in front of him. Xiao Lan added that he would be returning to the Qing pavilion. And if the Xiao family wanted to kill Xiao Lan, the Zuo family's master should have come and found Xiao Lan. Qingyi Pavilion was completely trashed, everything was scattered and some things were broken. Even young Master Qianshun was defeated, and the enemy stepped a foot on his head as he looked up helplessly. Lady Qingyi was lying on the ground. Her mouth was bleeding, and she too had been defeated by the same enemy. Chanlao asked Qingbao to let the lady go. Qingbao said that if he resisted, he would die too. Chanlao bowed and said that the poison in Madame Qingyi's body was already starting to take effect. She needed medical attention, and if she went to prison now, she would definitely die. Qingbao laughed and said that usually Chanlao is not so cocky, and Xiao Lan acts like he owns the whole world. Chanlao took hold of Qingbao's robe and began to beg him to let the lady go before she died. Qingbao laughed and threw away Chanlao with his foot, saying to get lost. Qingbao started walking towards Qingyi, saying that all of this was pressing on his nerves more and more. Jinghua wanted Xiao Qingyi to go with him. He would take her supposedly as a hostage with him. Xiao Qingyi's hands were tied and she was being carried away by Qingbao. Qianshun shouted the princess's name, but he couldn't help her. Qingbao ordered his warriors to take everyone in Qingyi Pavilion and throw them into a cage. Kenshin informed Auntie that Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao had finally returned to the Qingyi Pavilion. Xiao Lan stopped and saw everything in front of his eyes. Qingyi tied up on the floor, Qianxun and Chanlao covered in blood. His dear aunt, friend, and Xiao family elder were all injured and suffering. Xiao Lan began to get angrier and angrier. Qingbao laughed and said that Xiao Lan had come to his certain doom and ordered the warriors to capture him. Xiao Lan's eyes became covered in new colors. His pupil turned bright orange and his entire eye became red in color. He grabbed his head and shouted loudly, deafening all of his closest opponents and allies alike. After which, Xiao Lan's hair changed shape. His body was enveloped by an all-new yellow aura. His hair began to grow bigger and bigger. Xiao Lan's hair changed color to gray. Xiao Lan asked Qingbao how he dared to injure Auntie. In a fit of anger, he promised that he would kill Qingbao. Qingbao said that based on their wickedness, Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao would suffer the punishment of execution. Xiao Dao took his enhanced form and began to fight off the warriors that were trying to capture them. The transformed Xiao Lan also used his vine and absorbed weak warriors. Qianxun gathered his strength in his fist and punched the warrior that was holding him. Got a chance to free himself. Qianxun wanted to take revenge on Xiao Qingbao for daring to injure Auntie. He deserved to die. To Xiao Qingbao, this was all ridiculous. Pathetic attempts by weaklings to fight in a desperate situation. Qingbao used his soul. The orange flaming tiger leapt at Qianxun. There was an explosion at Qianxunya's place. Xiao Lan, fighting with Xiao Qingbao's subjects, noticed the explosion. To Qianxun's relief, Xiao Lan released his vine straight at Xiao Qingbao. Qingbao said that Xiao Lan was crazy if he wanted to defeat a useless spirit. Qingbao once again released the shadow, devouring leopard demon again. Xiao Lan cried out, using his useless soul to kill his leopard demon. The vine took the outline of Xiao Lan and began to grow towards Qingbao's soul. The grass then enveloped the leopard demon from the base of its body to the very top of its head. Xiao Qingbao was surprised how a useless soul was able to defeat his strong soul. Xiao Lan added that this soul would not only kill his soul, but also Xiao Qingbao himself. In fear for her soul, Xiao Qingbao immediately ordered her to return back to him. Qingbao started coughing up blood. Most of his soul was absorbed and weakened. Xiao Lan ordered the vine to not let go of the enemy, and pointed it at Xiao Qingbao. A surprised Xiao Qingbao was enveloped by the vine. She took hold of his forearms and squeezed him tightly. Xiao Qingbao's fingers began to decay. The bones on his hand could already be seen, and it was terribly painful for him. Xiao Qingbao's arm fell to the ground, and he held onto it as he continued to suffer in pain. Xiao Lan's terrifying image appeared in front of him. Earlier, the cocky Qingbao had raged earlier, but now fell to his knees in front of Xiao Lan. The frightened Qingbao asked Xiao Lan not to kill him, and began to plead as hard as he could. Xiao Lan took out his knife and stabbed Xiao Qingbao straight into his stomach. He plunged the knife in quite slowly. Qingbao felt even more painful. He could barely stay conscious from all the pain that enveloped him. Xiao Lan took Qingbao's head and said that he would not let him die so easily after what he had done. The huge army was behind them. They ordered Xiao Lan to stop immediately. Shoudan told Kenshin to bring Sasi to him, and Shodama should help Auntie out. Qingbao told Xiao Lan that he couldn't kill him. Qingbao's father is the patriarch and his brother is the head of the family. The Zuo family elder pointed his finger at Xiao Lan and told him to immediately let Princess Zuo Xi go. And if Xiao Lan doesn't stop, he'll go against the will of heaven. Or rather, against the whole world. Hongdo looked at him in the crowd and quietly mouthed his name, just worrying about him. Xiao Lan let out an intimidating laugh. Gusts of air and aura enveloped him as Xiao Lan laughed. The elder shouted that Xiao Lan had already lost his mind. His decisions were too crazy. Xiao Lan said that he had lived with Auntie and Xiao Dao since he was a child, and they were like family to him. Auntie taught Xiao Lan to avoid trouble, but if he couldn't, she always helped him out. But now Auntie was poisoned and they were treating her rudely. Since when did anyone dare to humiliate Qingyi? The Zuo family and Xiao Lan had been at odds ever since he returned. Almost the entire Xiao family treated Xiao Lan like scum, made life difficult for him, and tried to kill him altogether. It was all ridiculous, and Xiao Lan wondered if he was the one causing trouble, or if others were finding it. Xiao Qingbao's father ordered Xiao Lan to let Zuo Xi and Qingbao go, or else he would immediately die. Xiao Lan added that he didn't cause trouble himself, but just like that, he wasn't afraid of them either. The bloodied Xiao Qingbao begged his father to help him. He could already barely speak. Xiao Lan said that Xiao Qingbao should have died and immediately slit his throat. Xiao Qingbao's father started shouting that he would kill Xiao Lan. The old man was racked with anger and a desire for revenge for his son. The arrogant Xiao Lan said that the old man wouldn't have the strength to kill Xiao Lan so easily. Xiao Lan was mocked by the royal realm. They all thought that Xiao Lan was trash at the basic warrior level. He said that those who were confident in their strength could attack. The terrifying vine aura became even larger and revealed Xiao Lan's true strength. Everyone was surprised. After all, Xiao Lan had killed Xiao Qingbao with a trash spirit, even though Qingbao was 3 levels above him. Xiao Lan ordered Xiao Dao and Chen Lao to leave. If anyone followed them, Chen Shun would have to kill Zuo Shi. Xiao Lan took a couple steps forward and said, reminding everyone in front of him once again, "Those who get out of the way will not be enemies with Xiao Lan, and he will never again take a step into the capital or harm a single hair of Zuo Shi's hair. But if someone wanted to kill him, then they should have tried. And if it failed to kill Xiao Lan, then the entire family of the attacker would be killed, every single one of them, even in case it took Xiao Lan's entire life to do so." Xiao Lan told everyone who did not want to antagonize him for the rest of his life to get out of his sight immediately. The Dongfang family, the Ni family, and the Cha family had reached an agreement. They didn't want to be Xiao Lan's enemies, but the 10 great families had to decide for themselves, for no one could tell them what to do. The other families began to discuss Xiao Lan's proposal. It was a short-lived decision for them. The other families also left the battlefield, saying that they did not want to be Xiao Lan's enemies in any way. Xiao Lan was surprised and laughed, saying that he didn't expect to see her in Xiao Lan's path. Princess Zishan stood up to Xiao Lan Yu and dared to oppose him on the king's orders. Zishan raised the token in the air and said that it was the king's own command. Xiao Lan had committed a great crime. The emperor guaranteed the Xiao family's safety for 30 years if they killed Xiao Lan. If something happens to Zuo Shi, the emperor will punish everyone and compensate the Zuo family for it. The members of the Zuo family were now confident that they would kill the Xiao family's traitor, Xiao Lan. The 2 great souls appeared in front of Xiao Lan and declared war on him, just as Xiao Lan had said. Xiao Lan was forced to fight to the death against 2 strong members of the Xiao family. A shot from the heavens struck the battle site of Xiao Lan and the people who challenged him, after which everything exploded. No one realized what had happened. As it turned out, a huge sword fell from the heavens and plunged into the ground in front of them. The god of war, Xing Dugu, and his subordinate came to the battlefield. The first battle of great warriors. Zishan was surprised. According to her memory, he should have been in the north by the Great Wall. But even with that in mind, he was able to return with one of the 5 greatest warriors, Jing Ming Ming. Xing Dugu immediately rushed to his beloved Xiao Qingyi. He put his hand on her face and saw her condition. Shindu-gu apologized for being late and promised that everything was fine now. No one would dare to touch her again. Xiao Lan's enemies immediately asked if he wanted to protect the monster called Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan himself spotted the perfect chance to attack when the masters lowered their guard. The vine took the form of the leopard demon of the very Qingbao and lunged at the elders. The elder was mistaken and immediately ordered the soul to return. But it was too late. He was already weak. Zishan was surprised. Xiao Lan's spirit could easily wound a high-level spirit and easily killed Qingbao. Xiao Lan swept his words earlier. If someone tried to kill him, the entire family of the attacker would suffer. The warriors wanted to attack Xiao Lan for daring to injure Elder Zuo with his attacks. Jingming noticed the attackers and used his technique. His fingers began to glow, after which, a single large sword fell to the ground, just like the one when the Zuo family and Xiao Lan's battle was interrupted by the Zuo family's battle. But this time, it wasn't the end of the attack. There were thousands of small blades in the sky waiting for the time to fall. Xing Du-gu said that Xiao Lan was doing well. He guaranteed Xiao Lan and Qingyi's safety. If they hurt them even a little, their family would be wiped out. The Zuo family and the army were distracted by a loud sound. The earth shaking and rumbling could be heard everywhere. Sina Du-gu's army rushed to the scene of the skirmish and mouthed an order from the commander, saying anyone who gets in the way of Qingyi's guard will die. The Zuo family wanted to know Du Guxing's motives and why he was doing all this against them. Princess Zishan asked if he wanted to disregard the law of the dynasty and go against her will. Du Guxing said that he just wanted to bring his beloved back home. This didn't make him a traitor. Even though Zishan had a token, but was it the will of the emperor? Zishan started shouting angrily with questions as to whether Du Guxing was going to blackmail the Shan dynasty. Du Guxing took Qingyi's hand and asked the princess if she knew why Du Guxing's soldier was named after Qingyi. Du Guxing added that she was his beloved. Even if the princess wanted to hinder him, then he would go to battle, even with her. Jingming stepped forward and created even more heavenly blades in the air. Many more than there were before. Zizhem noticed that Du Guxing wasn't lying. He had 10,000 warriors called Qingyi guards. Qingyi finally opened her eyes in the midst of the contraction and thanked Du Guxing for finally coming over. Du Guxing immediately rushed over to Qing. Yi began to recognize her condition and apologized for her long arrival. Then he added that if anyone said bad things, they would immediately die by his hand. Qingyi asked Du Guxing not to kill anyone. She was tired and was just asking him to take her far away. Du Guxing heard the will of his beloved and immediately took her in his arms, saying that he was taking her with him. Xiao Lan told the Qianxun to let Saxi go and follow Du Guxing, who was carrying Qingyi. Now the whole group headed forward. No one dared to stand in their way in fear for their lives. Xiao Lan turned around to the Xiao family surnames and said to Xiao Buhou and Xiao Qinglun that he no longer belonged to the Xiao family. Xiao Lan also added in front of them that he would wait if any of them had the courage to kill Xiao Lan. Before he left, Xiao Lan also, and not forgetting Cha Mu and Hongdou, he addressed them. Xiao Lan said that he doesn't know when their next meeting will be. He never had any friends. But from this day forward, Cha Mu and Hongdou are Xiao Lan's friends forever. In tears, Hongdou said that they would surely see Xiao Lan sometime in the future. Cha Mu, on the other hand, wished him a safe journey and added that he would look forward to seeing Xiao Lan again. Since the day of that very conflict, the Xiao family has withdrawn and isolated itself from the world, and the imperial family issued a decree not to disclose the past incident with Xiao Lan. Qingyi's 10,000-strong army left the imperial capital and disappeared without a trace afterward. In Beijing Qingyi City, families who had been to that incident discussed what happened. The elder of the Dongfang family learned of what had happened. Already within his lands, Dongfang Shang swept up that he didn't expect otherwise from Xiao Buxi's grandson, and also Wu Hongdou is smart. In the Ni family house, Ni Shuzi also swept up that Ximin's child could not be a brat. And in the Zuo family's house, violent aggression was blazing indeed. Angry shouts could be heard outside the Zuo home. An elder of the Zuo family remarked how idiotic Zuo Fan, Zuo Ming, and Zuo Xi were. The elder issued an order to remove Zuo Fang as the head. Zuo Ming and Zuo Xi should be locked up for a year and kill all the guards who participated in Xiao Lan's attack. Then send their heads to Du Guxing. The other participants began to explain to my lady that there was no need for this. Du Guxing had betrayed the state. The emperor would not forgive him. You shouldn't have aligned yourself with that weakling. The elder remarked that they didn't understand a damn thing. As it turned out, Xiao Lan was the one who should have seen those heads. He was definitely not a lowlife. The son of the war god Xiao Qingdi could not be a lowly child. And according to the elder's guess, Xiao Lan had a spirit superior to the divine. If Xiao Lan still hated the Zuo family, it could disappear in the future. The elder added that if Xiao Lan was not satisfied, they should add Zuo Ming and Zuo Xi's heads to it. Xiao Lan, Du Guxing, and the others were heading somewhere. Xiao Lan was eager to find out from Uncle Du Gu where they were going like this. Xiao Lan said that he was immensely grateful in front of Du Guxing for saving her, but he wanted to take Qingyi away and cure her as soon as possible. Du Guxing added that Qingyi had not told Xiao Lan about the poison before. Xiao Lan wanted to clarify about it. Du Guxing revealed that it was one of the 3 dangerous poisons, Huang Chuang Shi or Afterlife Larch. Now Xiao Lan understood why the Xiao family couldn't handle it. But Xiao Lan was worried about another question. Did they know the solution to this poison? Du Guxing wasn't sure, but right now, they were looking for one person who could help. But if he failed, no one would help Qingyi anymore. Xiao Lan wanted to find out how Grandpa died. Du Guxing said he would reveal it after they helped Qingyi. The yellow dragon immediately flew over the group. As soon as it was in front of the group, it began to descend to the ground. The dragon stopped and let out a loud cry. A surprised Xiao Lan wondered about the identity of this dragon. It was the minister. He had come to tell the order for Du Guxing. Du Guxing ordered everyone to stand back. Du Guxing bowed his hands together and waited for the minister to land on the ground for an order. The minister relayed a question from the emperor. The emperor wanted to know if Du Guxing had anything to say to the emperor. Du Guxing ducked his head and said that as a humble servant, he was in utter fear. The minister asked in bewilderment if that was all he wanted to say. Du Guxing said yes. The minister started yelling about Du Guxing's situation. He was a traitor to the motherland and had nothing to say to the emperor. Du Guxing thanked the minister for his concern, but said that he himself would tell the emperor soon enough, after which Du Guxing's army moved according to his order, and the minister stood shocked at what he had heard. The minister addressed the passing soldiers, calling them very arrogant, but they ignored him. Later, Xiao Lan asked Du Guxing's uncle about the place they had been traveling to for so long. Du Guxing said that they were going to Shanfeng Mountain to find Medicine King Guohuo. Du Guohang also added that Guohuo has excellent medical equipment. He will examine Qing Yi and then everything will be seen afterwards. When already the boys were approaching Mount Shanfeng, Xiao Lan was admiring the height of the mountain. The warrior brought the report to the general. According to Guohuo, he was now studying and creating the immortality pill. For 3 months, he asked that no one be allowed in. This rule applied to everyone. Xiao Lan thought it was strange. Plus, they didn't have time to wait for 3 whole months. Du Guhang ordered to take 1,000 warriors and bring Guohuo to him, along with all the medicines. Also bring anyone who would resist. The warriors were allowed to do everything except killing. Xiao Lan wondered if this was allowed. After all, the Medicine King is a revered person. Du Guxing asked if he was afraid, and Xiao Lan immediately said no. Du Guhing held out Hu Ming Xiao Lan's ring and asked him to take care of it. If Xiao Lan wanted to find something, he should have put in the effort. Old man Guohuo dared to play with Du Guxing, which means Du Guxing will show what he can do. Xiao Lan moved forward towards his goal and told Du Guxing that he would not disappoint him in any way. The guards of Shanfeng Mountain asked who Xiao Lan and his group were. After all, they dared to pass through uninvited. Xiao Lan immediately ordered the warriors to capture anyone who would resist against their will. The guards at the gate of Shanfeng Mountain were surprised at Xiao Lan's harsh words about capturing the resisting ones. 1,000 of Du Guxing's subjects surrounded Shinfeng's territory and ordered no one to move. The Medicine Emperor's voice could be heard from afar. He recognized Xiao Lan and Du Guxing's bravery. The Medicine Emperor added that if it was punishable, or his enemies could get away with it, he would get justice either way. Guo Hao appeared in front of Xiao Lan and said that his actions would not go unpunished. Xiao Lan smiled and haughtily asked Medicine Emperor Guo Hao if it was definitely him. Gao Ho asked why Xiao Lan hadn't stopped his warriors yet, and pointed his crutch at Xiao Lan, and added that he would wait for Xiao Lan's life to be spoiled. Xiao Lan ignored Gao Hao before pointing his finger at him, and ordering the others to grab the medical genius. Du Guxing's subjects began to surround Gu Hu. The old man rebuked them for how dare they do such a thing. Gu Hao said for them to kill him. He wanted to see how Du Guxing would explain himself in front of the world. Xiao Lan said that he didn't care about Gu Hu's words, and ordered the other part of the warriors to look for medicines. Gao Ho started yelling about what kind of brigands, bandits, thieves, and so on the guys were. One of the doors was closed. The warrior clarified whether it was worth breaking it down. Xiao Lan agreed. After a loud bang, a room appeared in front of Xiao Lan and the others. The entire room was filled with antiques. The astonished Xiao Lan remarked about the beauty of things that Medicine Emperor Go Ho Ho kept. Xiao Lan took out a ring and asked Go Hao for permission to use the gift given to him. Looking around the room, Xiao Lan also saw a secret room that was behind a large closet. Receiving Xiao Lan's smirk, he realized, Molly, there were even more valuables in that room and it was worth checking out. Xiao Lan walked out of the room and saw Du Guxing. He was heading towards him, at which time Go Ho shouted angrily. Xiao Lan showed the ring and asked Uncle Du Guxing how he intended to use this ring. Du Guxing told Xiao Lan to keep the ring. If he needed it, Du Guxing would ask Xiao Lan for it. Xiao Lan added that he felt sorry for the Medicine King. Du Guxing said that the Medicine King himself would thank Xiao Lan and the others later. Xiao Lan didn't understand why at all. Xiao Lan accepted Du Guxing's words and reached into his pocket saying that in the secret room, he had discovered 2 strange things. Xiao Lan took out a small vial and a closed scroll, then held them out to Du Guxing. Du Guxing laughed and didn't understand how Gu Ho had such entertaining things to say. Du Guxing gave these things to Xiao Lan and said what it was. The scroll turned out to be a map fragment, and the bottle had pills for hardening the body and treating injuries in it, after which, the group moved somewhere again. Xiao Lan wanted to know their path, but Du Guxing said that everything would be clear within 10 days. The news that Du Guxing had brought his troops to the capital spread everywhere. The officials demanded that he be tried. However, Yun Fei Yang only reprimanded Du Guxing and revoked all his titles, but did not take away his military power. The whole country thought Yun Fei Yang was a fool and Du Guxing was a traitor to his native country. In northern Xinjiang, Qingyi City, a conversation was going on for a long time. The elders of the Zuo family were discussing this generation's god of war. He was truly of heavenly level, able to settle everything with one hand. Du Guxing took his soldiers out without authorization, not to mention that he had infiltrated the capital of the empire. He had also attacked Guohuo. Du Guxing's wisdom knew no bounds. The elder asked about Du Guxing's reputation. After all, he was planning to seize power with his military might. Du Guxing could do it. Du Guxing gave up prestige in exchange for the emperor's trust. Even that Shunfeng was washed in blood, the emperor did not condemn him. The second elder remarked that it was fortunate that Du Guxing was a member of a military dynasty, for if Du Guxing was from another country, he would have been a terrible enemy. Du Guxing and his team came to a dead end. In front of them was a huge rock of stone, closing the passage. Xiao Lan said that it was a dead end, and that even the warriors couldn't stop here. Du Guxing simply said Jing Ming's name, whereupon that same mountain abruptly emitted a loud bang in the middle of an entire forest in place of a cliff face. After the explosion, a huge door appeared in front of everyone, from which a rainbow light was emitted. Xiao Lan noticed it and was immediately astonished. He had never seen such a door before, much less such a thing. It was an ancient teleport. Xiao Lan had read about such a thing in the ancient books he found in libraries. Du Guxing agreed with Xiao Lan and said that the teleporter was the only way to leave without anyone noticing their trail. Du Guxing asked Xiao Lan to follow him, and they slowly started to enter the rainbow portal. The huge hulk of warriors ended up at the legendary hidden sect. It was a marvelous place. Looking around, Xiao Lan had no way of knowing where they were. After thinking for a moment, he decided to ask what kind of place this was. Surprised by what he saw, the elder asked if this place was a legendary hidden sect. Du Guxing said that it was a sect. A martial dynasty could hold its position for thousands of years at the expense of this hidden sect. Lu Ming, Zi Ming, and He Ming noticed the arrival of the others and hurried over to the group, beckoning Jing Ming to join them. Du Guxing told Jiming to take everyone away, and Lu Ming was to take care of Qing Yi. Du Guxing said that Shoudow and Xiao Lan would go with him, for both of them were worth seeing the hidden emperor. Xiao Lan said that he understood and thought in his mind, because the hidden emperor could be the strongest person in the dynasty. Soon, Xiaodao and Xiao Lan came to a beautiful building that was still on the same hidden sect. Du Guxing and the guys behind him entered the emperor's temple. Du Guxing immediately paid homage in front of the meditating emperor. Xiao Lan immediately noticed the emperor's aura. His strength was unfathomable. The emperor's aura was much heavier than Xiao Buxi's. The hidden emperor stopped meditating and glanced at the boys before simply snorting. The emperor started complaining about Du Guxing, saying he came to stress the old man again. Du Guxing laughed and said that he had found 2 successors who could inherit the emperor's sect. The emperor didn't understand where such kindness from Du Guxing came from. After all, he was the one who had fooled him the last time. But the emperor said that he would still live for about 100 years, and he didn't worry about the successors. Du Guxing insisted that he was serious and gave the names of his nephews, Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao. Du Guxing then added compliments about Xiao Lan's strength, saying he was similar in strength to Zhang Jun or Zhang Wan, plus Xiao Lan had a divine soul, and Xiao Dao had a soul that has never seen the light of day, and both were from the Xiao family. The emperor immediately began to shout out his surprise that Xiao Lan was able to kill a war king. Jin Ming remarked about Xiao Lan's spirit, saying that he was able to corrode not only flesh and blood, but also the spirit. The war king was damaged by the attack on his soul and was killed afterwards. All in all, Xiao Lan's talent is really good, and he is the strongest among all the teenagers that Jin Ming has seen. The emperor hesitated at these words. The emperor ordered Xiao Dao and Xiao Lan to come out and added that he would deal with them later on. The emperor swept up that Du Guxing had finally come with good news. A heaven-level soul was indeed worthy of the title of young master. Du Guxing thanked the emperor, but the hidden emperor said that there are always nuances. Xiao Lan was too bloodthirsty. There was a demon sitting in his heart. It would soon come out. It was best to test Xiao Lan in battle. Otherwise, the emperor would finish him off himself. Du Guhong understood the emperor's conditions and simply agreed with his words without any additions. The emperor asked what Du Guxing wanted after all, besides finding receivers for the hidden emperor. Du Guxing fell to his knees and folded his hands together, then mumbled that Qing Yi had been poisoned by Huang Chuangxi's poison. Although Du Guxing had given her the medicine, but the poison was still rushing through Qing Yi's body. The emperor was surprised at what he heard. This poison was extremely dangerous and complex. It was impossible to be eliminated from the body. As the emperor knew, there was no antidote on their mainland, but the emperor had the power to suppress the poison for 5 years. Du Guxing said that in these 5 years, he would try his best for the antidote. The emperor added that the suppression process threatened his life. In return, he demanded a condition from Du Guxing. Du Guxing said that he agrees to any conditions and listens to the master. The emperor said he wanted to make Xiao Dao his successor. Raising his head, Du Guxing replied that it was possible, and he would do anything for it. The emperor told Du Guoxing to bugger off, and added that if Guo Huo wasn't going to help, then let him go to hell. As Du Guoxing left, he thought for a moment. After all, the emperor didn't even look down on Xiao Dao. He immediately looked at him. Du Guoxing guessed that this decision was right. Perhaps Xiao Dao was from another world. As soon as Du Guoxing walked out, the emperor started jumping with happiness. He had found a treasure. If, according to his theory, Xiao Dao really belonged to that very ancient sect, then his hidden sect would become the dominant sect in the mainland. Li Ming carried Qing Yi to a small house. Qing Yi was lying on a small cot in a cozy place. But finally Qing Yi opened her eyes. She was soon able to rise up in her bunk. She immediately turned to Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao, who were in the lodge. They were surprised that Auntie was able to wake up. Xiao Lan rushed to his aunt and asked about her condition. Qing Yi apologized for lying to the guys. Xiao Lan said that he didn't hold a grudge against Auntie and couldn't blame her. The most important thing was that Auntie would get better. Qing Yi said that the boys themselves knew about Auntie's illness. As the boys grew older, Qing Yi could rest easy. Qing Yi asked about Xiao Lan's soul. Xiao Lan revealed that his soul was not trash at all, but a heaven-level soul. The soul not only increases Xiao Lan's strength, but also corrodes the enemy's body along with his soul. Qing Yi swept her eyes over the fact that she knew Xiao Lan wouldn't let her down. It was a pity that Qing Yi wouldn't be able to see the beauty of Xiao Lan's strength. Du Guoxing entered Qing Yi's chambers and said that he would never let her die, because he was by her side. Du Guoxing put his hand on his chest and said that he would do his best for Qing Yi's life. Qing Yi said that even if she died, she wouldn't have any regrets because Du Guoxing was by her side. Du Guoxing asked if the guys could have saved Qing Yi's life. Xiao Lan said that they would do their best. First of all, the guys should have learned about the Divine Soul Continent, which consisted of 3 dynasties. The Zhang dynasty had a hidden sect behind it, the Ji dynasty had a blood sect, and the Yu dynasty had a feather sect. The masters of these sects were the strongest people on the continent, but only one dynasty had the power to destroy another dynasty. Xiao Lan asked if his grandfather Xiao Buxi had died from someone from the blood sect. After all, no one in the dynasty would be able to defeat him. Du Guoxing said that this matter was much harder than Xiao Lan thought. It could be someone from the blood sect or traitors from the other 3 families. Xiao Lan asked what he should do. Du Guoxing offered to go with him to the battlefield. Xiao Lan needed to grow up and train with the Zhang dynasty for 5 years. Then there would be hope of saving his auntie, much less avenging Xiao Buxi. Xiao Lan was surprised by Du Guoxing's motives. After all, Du Guoxing wanted to make Xiao Lan a god of war. Du Guoxing asked if Xiao Lan could do this. Xiao Lan immediately said that he could and would become stronger for Qing Yi. Xiao Dao broke into the dialogue and wondered about himself if he shouldn't have gone. Du Guoxing said that the hidden emperor wanted to make Xiao Dao his successor and he would need to stay here. Xiao Lan asked Xiao Dao to worry about Auntie with all his might. Xiao Dao smiled and said what would be done. Du Guoxing remarked how good Qing Yi's children turned out to be. He even felt useless because he had to rely on them. Qing Yi said that it was just that they and she trusted him. Xiao Lan and Xiao Dao decided not to interfere with the romance among Du Guoxing and Qing Yi, so they decided to leave them. Later, there was a ritual to suppress the poison in Qing Yi's body. A couple of masters surrounded Qing Yi and transmitted energy through her. Xiao Lan watched this and couldn't hide his interest, asking what would happen to Auntie Qing Yi. Du Guoxing said that this case was handled by the hidden emperor, which means Qing Yi will be fine. In his thoughts, Du Guoxing prayed for his aunt. He was afraid that their good life that had just started could end so quickly. The door from the ritual room finally creaked open, and the surprised boys immediately turned around. Lu Ming walked out of the door, and the 3 immediately asked her the same question about Auntie Qing Yi's condition. Lu Ming said that everything was fine, and they succeeded in suppressing the poison in Qing Yi's body for 5 years. Du Guoxing bowed and said that it was wonderful. Lu Ming asked Du Guoxing not to do such honors. 3 days after that, everyone gathered outside. Auntie asked if Xiao Lan wanted to leave already. Xiao Lan said that yes, because the trash from the Xiao family was unreliable, and if he wanted to save Qing Yi plus avenge his parents and grandfather, he should have gotten stronger as soon as possible. Du Guoxing said, making sure that Xiao Lan would be perfectly safe with him. Xiao Lan turned to Xiao Dao. If Xiao Dao was interested in the hidden sect emperor, then he was indeed a person of a powerful race, and should try just as hard. Xiao Dao promised that he would become stronger. The brothers had 5 years to perfect themselves. Xiao Lan finished his ranting and finally said that he would be leaving already. Xiao Dao wished good luck to everyone. Gao Ho Hao distracted Xiao Lan and stopped him. He wanted to do something, or maybe say something. Xiao Lan turned around and asked what Go Ho had come for. Was it really to take revenge? Gu Ho was grateful to be brought to this place. He could learn a lot of things that he wouldn't have learned outside. Gao Ho Hao gave the vial to Xiao Lan and said that in these 2 days, he had learned how to do more medicine and learned that Xiao Lan was going to the front line. And for that, he brought pills that would change Xiao Lan's appearance so that no one at the front would recognize him. Xiao Lan took the bottle and thanked Gu Ho for the medicine he made and his efforts. Auntie suggested that Xiao Lan try medicine now so they could recognize him in case of anything. Xiao Lan gave 1 pill to Qian Shun so that no one would recognize him either, and they both prepared themselves. After tasting the pill, Xiao Lan immediately changed and a blue aura emanated from him. Xiao Dao remarked about Xiao Lan's funny change and his change of hair color to black. Qingyi said that Xiao Lan had become even more handsome. Xiao Lan laughed from the pill effect. Xiao Lan told Qingyi not to worry, for he would remain Qingyi's son regardless of his appearance. Auntie bowed her head and replied that she would always be his aunt as he was her son. Auntie and Xiao Dao wished Xiao Lan, Qian Shun, and Du Guxing good luck in the war territory. Watching Xiao Lan's passing, Auntie hoped that Xiao Lan would be able to achieve greatness. Du Guxing, Qian Shun, and Xiao Lan went back to that very ancient teleport from the forgotten books. Xiao Lan found himself in front of northern Xinjiang, and watching the city told him that he was going exactly there. The architecture of the city of Longjia was impressive. Large columns surrounded the gates of the city. Xiao Lan was surprised from the beautiful architecture of Longjia City. Northern Xinjiang was very surprising. The boys were stopped by a guard. He wanted to know what the group's purpose was in coming to Longjia. Xiao Lan put his hands together and told the officer that they wanted to join the army. The officer ordered the boys to open their sack. There were a couple of maps, some rope, a couple knives, and a vial of medicine in there. The officer said it was illegal to bring guns, for the guys were throwing it away or had to leave. Xiao Lan bowed his head and said that they would deal with the weapons immediately. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun were distracted by the loud sounds of horses' footsteps and shouts asking others to disperse. It was the daughter of the general of the city of Longjia with her subjects. She rode her horses. Xiao Lan asked the officer about the identity of the general's daughter. The officer explained and added that she had the same power as her father. Xiao Lan should have been careful with her, for he would not see his head in her hands. Xiao Lan thought and noticed that this young lady was not inferior to men at all. After a while, Xiao Lan and Qian Shun found a place where there were many warriors standing in front of the entrance. Xiao Lan swept up that this place was a gathering in the army selection pavilion. A couple of people flew through the surprised Xiao Lan. They were thrown out of the pavilion. The man said that trash shouldn't have joined the army. Allegedly, they would waste their time for nothing and die on the battlefield. Half of the aspiring warriors decided to run away once they saw what was being done to the underdogs. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun stayed where they were. Soon the man called them over to him. They immediately responded. The new identities of the guys were named Yao Shi, novice general, good at field research, hope to become a scout. Yao Ji, novice warrior, possesses a top-level dark fox soul, hopes to become a scout commander. They were also of Aletian nationality. The officer noticed that they were not bad. He wanted to see what the boys were capable of. Qian Jun and Xiao Lan had to duel, so that the officer could see their strengths. Before the duel could begin, the past officer appeared in front of the boys and kicked out the weaklings and immediately fell to the ground. It was the daughter of the city leader. She knocked out an officer and snorted viciously as she regarded her surroundings. The second officer immediately noticed Mrs. Longjia and immediately rushed to her with questions. He bowed and began to reiterate that if they had done anything wrong, they were truly sorry. Madame Longjia explained that the scout provided to her was the best in the army. But as a result, Zhuojian had clearly discovered the location of their army. The officer apologized to Mistress. In the recent battle, all the scouts went to the front lines, and the best ones were sent to Mistress. The lady put her foot on the officer's head and asked if she was cheating. The officer immediately said that she was not. Suddenly, the officer had an idea and pointed his finger at the guys, adding that there were 2 Alishans who were masters at their craft, even with souls. The officer originally wanted to give them to the advance team, but if the lady was free, he could give them to her. Qian Shun and Xiao Lan were surprised. They had just been very rudely sold without an either-or agreement. The mistress ordered both of them to reveal their souls so that she could look at the strength of the boys standing before her. Qian Shun was skeptical that they would have to go with this young lady on her orders. The princess ordered to show the souls faster. Qian Shun was about to speak up, but Xiao Lan stopped him from doing so. But gathering his spirit, Qian Shun decided to show his soul. He concentrated and started emitting an aura. Then gathering his strength, he leaped forward to show the speed of his spirit and its power. Immediately, the aura dissipated. With a lightning-fast movement, Qian Shun was behind the princess's back. Qian Shun's speed completely amazed the princess. He was surprisingly strong. The princess said that this arrangement suited her, and she wanted to know Qian Shun's name and his scouting art. Qian Shun said his middle name, and added that he didn't possess the art of intelligence. The officer said that the Elysians lived in the mountains and were born scouts. With a little training, they would be fine. The princess had said to bring them to the general's mansion after training. But if it was some kind of trash, the officer would have a hard time. The overjoyed officer agreed to the terms set by the princess without any hesitation. The officer turned to the boys and immediately ordered them to run to the designated spot. There was a man in charge of the training camp. He introduced himself as a teacher and immediately set a condition that everyone should be in this camp before even the rooster crowed. Qian Shun and Xiao Lan agreed that they had heard their new teacher and understood the condition. Later, in a dormitory with many bunks, Xiao Lan and Qian Shun were there to sleep. Qian Shun asked Xiao Lan if he was still awake. Xiao Lan said he wasn't, and added that he had already had a lot of things happen, and should have thought it over. Qian Shun added, since it was an order from the god of war, it was worth following it indiscriminately. Xiao Lan said that it was already worth sleeping. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun needed to get ready faster. Early in the morning, when the sun had just risen, the teacher yawned and waited on the other students. The teacher was surprised at Xiao Lan and Qian Shun's early arrival. They said that they had just listened to the teacher's words. This was good news. The teacher had ordered the guys to do 10,000 laps with a stone on their backs, and they were forbidden to eat until they finished. Qian Shun didn't understand how this would help them in exploration. The teacher said it all helps with endurance. Physical strength is the most basic requirement for a scout. The teacher also added, if Qian Shun opened his mouth, he would starve for 3 days for disobedience. The teacher couldn't believe that they had brought warriors with souls to him. He wanted to see how long it would take for the boys to deflate. Already when the whole day had passed, the boys stopped and threw the stones on the ground. They were very tired. The teacher said they were too slow, and as punishment they could not eat their supper, and the next day they must run 15,000 circles. Qian Shun noticed the teacher's special sneers, but Xiao Lan said that this happened often. Besides, Xiao Lan had physical pills, and they could continue tomorrow. To stay in the camp for exploration, the boys had to obediently follow the orders given by the teacher. The next day, the boys again obediently obeyed the teacher's orders and wore the same stones. But as soon as Xiao Lan or Qian Shun tried to eat, the barrels of food were completely empty, and they had to go to sleep with empty stomachs and try harder and harder day after day. Later, the teacher praised the guys for lasting this long. Xiao Lan said that they were in no hurry to leave. Now the teacher finally decided to move on to the topic of exploration. The boys had had enough training on the teacher's opinion. The teacher jumped aside and told the boys to watch him closely, for he had something important to show them. Taking another leap, the teacher found himself behind a rock and exuberantly began looking from side to side. The teacher said it was impossible to catch him and notice him. He moved like a tiger before the hunt. Every trap would be spotted in front of him. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun were stunned. They had tried for so many days for such useless nonsense. The teacher was angry at the children's foolish attitude to the topic. After all, they would not have been able to learn such a topic even in 10 years. The children immediately ran into the forest. The teacher tried to stop them because there were many traps in the forest. But to his surprise, behind him, he heard Xiao Lan and Qian Shun's voice. They were in the forest in a split second, and afterward returned. The instructor dropped to the ground and asked the boys if they wanted to die because of the traps hidden in the woods. Xiao Lan threw all 7 traps in front of the instructor and asked if they were all traps. Qian Shun said that the traps disappointed him, and Xiao Lan said that he had learned such a scouting technique at 8 years old. The teacher got angry and decided to hit Xiao Lan, telling him not to get conceited over such a stupid thing. But Xiao Lan grabbed the teacher's face and flipped him over before throwing the instructor to the ground. The crippled teacher asked what the boys were doing to themselves by hitting their mentor. Xiao Lan asked Qian Shun if they could be attacked by mystic beasts. Qian Shun suggested that they could, and their brave teacher had even sacrificed himself for them. They were going to do something to the teacher. The frightened instructor tried to find out what the boys wanted. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun just beat up the teacher even worse. He sat on his knees and begged them not to beat him anymore. Xiao Lan was evil, but he couldn't kill him, so it was worth finding another way, or rather deception. Xiao Lan added that the teacher had long had a problem with the scouts, and was told that Madame Longha had sent him to deal with it. Xiao Lan was able to trick the teacher better than he expected. Everything went perfectly according to his plan. And even better than that, in the end Xiao Lan gave the pill to the teacher. He asked what kind of pill it was that Xiao Lan fed to him. Xiao Lan said that he had given poison to the teacher, and he had to take the antidote once a year or he would die. Plus, from this day on, he had to tell all the information about Longya to Xiao Lan. A joyful Xiao Lan and Qian Shun let go of the martyred instructor and agreed with him. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun finally came to the Longya General Headquarters at the order of the princess. The subject showed Xiao Lan and Qian Shun where they lived, adding that if they were needed, they would come for them. Another rule was that the boys could only go outside on the first day of the month. At other times, they were not allowed to leave the grounds. Upon entering his room, Qian Shun was terribly overjoyed. He immediately fell on the bed and said that he hadn't slept on a good bed in a long time. Xiao Lan observed that the camp was much harder to live in, and the beds were many times more comfortable. Qian Shun asked when they would have a new assignment. Xiao Lan said he didn't know, and it looked like they were under house arrest. Because of the vine, the speed of development had tripled. Xiao Lan would probably barely reach the strength of a war god in 4 years. But that wasn't enough to save Auntie. After some contemplation, Xiao Lan finally came up with an idea and proclaimed it. Xiao Lan said that he found a way to speed up the training and took out the ring he got from Du Guxing. Once outside, Qian Zun climbed onto the roof and warned Xiao Lan that everything was empty. Xiao Lan ordered the soul to go outside and said hello to the vine, adding that he hadn't seen it in a long time. Xiao Lan surrounded his hands with vines and began to concentrate with all his might, surrounding his body with an aura. After which, Xiao Lan ate a pill to strengthen his development speed even more. Qian Shun watched Xiao Lan's hard work and realized that he hadn't followed him for nothing. But apparently Xiao Lan had gone a little overboard with his abilities. His aura became more red, and he started to have problems. Qian Shun noticed that the situation was out of control and immediately jumped to his aid. After which Qian Shun placed his palm on Xiao Lan. His palm made a kind of blue aura surge outwards. Xiao Lan was able to return to his senses. He thanked Qian Shun for his help. Qian Shun asked Xiao Lan to walk slowly and gradually in his strength growth. Jin Ming was making a report for Du Guxing. Mole Xiao Lan and Qian Shun entered General Longya's mansion. They caught the attention of Longya Fire, and they were hired as scouts for the Red Guard. Du Guxing repeated the names of the Red Guard in Longya Fire, then said that he understood everything. Jin Ming added that the time for the 10 major families to share their experiences has come to an end this year. Yun Zishan led the young masters to Wushan City and will arrive in Qingyi City in 3 days. Du Guxing said that he already knew this. Du Guxing smiled and asked Jin Ming if he was worried about Xiao Lan and Qian Shun. Jing Ming said that Xiao Lan was like him at all when Jing Ming was smaller. Du Guxing added, "Mole young talents of the Zhang dynasty, peerless geniuses of the Xi dynasty, young men of war. If Xiao Lan is indeed a peerless genius, then this is the best ground for him to grow up in." Qian Shun and Xiao Lan's peaceful sleep was interrupted by someone. A silhouette of a man appeared in their window. Xiao Lan immediately opened his eyes and sensed the presence of an unwelcome guest in the vicinity of the room. Xiao Lan immediately ran outside and wanted to find out who this person was because he was quite strong. But Xiao Lan was wary, as this enemy might not be coming for him, but for Qian Shun. Xiao Lan ran back inside and rushed to Qian Shun to wake him up from his sleep. Qian Shun woke up and asked why Xiao Lan had woken him up. Another guess was that this energy was coming from Qian Shun, but it turned out to be wrong. Xiao Lan turned around with the purpose of finding what the big deal was. In the end, Xiao Lan noticed a book that had appeared on their table. As Xiao Lan assumed, it was Jin Ming who had come to leave a book of teachings for the fights. Xiao Lan was confident that he would live up to their expectations. After handing over the book, Jin Ming stood on the roof of the neighboring house and watched Xiao Lan's actions. Already when the sun came up, there was a rise. Everyone was awakened with loud shouts. The boys began to assemble in line by order of the commander-in-chief at the earliest possible hour. Xiao Lan asked the disciple beside him what was so interesting today. He replied that the young talents from the top 10 families of the Zhang dynasty would come to the battlefield to test their skills. The group would be led by Princess Yun Zishan. Xiao Lan immediately remembered the princess. The disciple was revealing his rumors. He heard that this time there would be an incomparable beauty. Allegedly, there was a poem about her about the incomparable beauty. This beauty was Dongfeng Hongdo. Xiao Lan was surprised at what he heard. He didn't expect to see her here at all. Many people have already gathered in Yangyihui to watch the celebration that will soon take place. A student wanted to know if they had permission to go to Yangyihui. Another student replied that there should have been, because the princess had called them all for a reason. Princess Lonya was not allowed to attend the diplomatic meeting, and she was very surprised. The guard said that she was not allowed to enter. Mrs. Lonya was only the formal leader, not the actual leader, so she was not allowed to enter the headquarters. Princess Lonya called the guard brave and ordered him to summon his superior to speak with her. Nanggong Yuer came to the gate and asked the guards what the occasion was for which they were making so much noise. Nanggong Yuer asked Princess Lonya why she was here. Princess Lonya said that she also came to welcome the delegation. Nanggong Yuer said so be it, but if the Red Guard fit the requirements, then let Lonya pass onward. The guard said that the requirements didn't fit, and Nanggong Yuer told Princess Lonya to walk somewhere else. The guard raised his pike to Princess Lonya's neck, ostensibly hinting that she would not be let through. The officer said he listens to and recognizes only military law. If Princess Lonya wants to break in, he'll have to kill her. Princess Lonya moved her neck away from the pike and got very angry at the guard.
The princess's subject asked her to think about it. They should have just forgotten about this situation. This time, Princess Lonya had no choice in the matter.
Princess Lonya said she wasn't afraid at all and wanted to see who would stop her. Lonya ordered her Red Guards to rush in and kill anyone who would get in the way. Xiao Lan was surprised at her decision. There were only 100 of them, and they were essentially making a rebellion. But after Princess Lonya's order, no one moved from their seats. The guards stood as if the order had never been given. Mrs. Lonya's subject asked her to calm down, for she should not have rebelled on such a solemn day. Nanggong Yuer mocked Princess Lonya, as she always wanted to compete with her. Mrs. Lonya turned to her subjects and asked them why they had failed to act. The guards said they couldn't do it. Qianxun turned around to Xiao Lan and wanted to know their next moves. Xiao Lan asked him to follow him. Xiao Lan took a step forward and started shouting that he would do anything in the name of Madame Lonya. Allegedly, Madame's order was undeniable. Mrs. Lonya rejoiced and turned around and told the boys to follow her into the attack. Nanggong Yuer ordered a retaliatory attack on the Red Guard rebels. A large yellow beam struck the ground. The one behind it told everyone to stop in the fight. The subjects and other guys who were around immediately recognized the man. It was General Liu. The general's force dispersed, and one of the subjects shouted to the others to give honors to the general. Mrs. Lonya fell to her knees and wanted to address the general as grandfather, but decided to call him General in the end. General Liu asked what kind of scandal could have occurred when the diplomatic mission was about to begin. Nanggong Yuer said that she was only following orders because Mrs. Lonya Fei was causing trouble. General Liu said to let Ms. Lonya inside, but added that if she made more trouble, General Liu would kill her personally. Mrs. Lonya was in a desperate situation and only had to agree with her grandfather's words. Standing up, Mrs. Lonya turned to Xiao Lan and Qianxun. She called them to come with her as they had shown good character. After which, the joyful Miss Lonya Fei walked through Nanggong Yuer, who was very dissatisfied. In her thoughts, the evil Nanggong Yuer could not let this situation go. She wanted to take revenge on Miss Lonya. Lady Lonya was escorted out by a subject, and Qianxun along with Xiao Lan were weaving behind the lady. Qianxun asked Xiao Lan how he knew they would get help. Xiao Lan said that Mrs. Lonya's father was a general and the adults couldn't leave them out. When children fool around, they should get involved. Soon the boys reached their destination, and the trio entered the hall where the ceremony would be held. Xiao Lan was surprised to see his friends in the ceremony hall. Even Chamu, or the same Nie Chiang, had come. Not only did they come, Ms. Hongdo also joined. Since the last time they met, Ms. Hongdo had become very thin. Turning his head around, Xiao Lan saw the main girl of this event, Princess Zishan to be exact. Other participants of this event marveled at Princess Zishan's beauty and remarked on the touching, as all three dynasties came to personally express their sympathy. Looking at Zishan, Xiao Lan noticed that she was getting weirder and weirder as time went by. Zishan loudly announced her words. She said she had brought a new generation of outstanding young people here, and she also wanted to ask for advice from the older generation. After her loud words, Princess Zishan finally ordered the banquet to begin and allowed the children of the palace to participate. Nanggong Yuer walked onto the stage, and everyone began to cheer her on, excited for the banquet to begin. Princess Lonya decided to pass a plate to Qianxun and Xiao Lan with 2 chicken legs on it. Lonya smiled and said the way the guys had shown themselves, well, giving them this as a token of appreciation. Xiao Lan decided to ask Princess Longya if it was Nangong Yue on the stage who was about to dance. The disgruntled Princess Longya said what a fond of coquetry she was in public, for she could pretend to be anyone. Lady Nangong Yue noticed the disgruntled Longya and approached her, asking her why she neglected the secular arts. Princess Longya simply said that she despised it. Nangong Yue snorted and asked if Miss Longya's skills were better than hers, and if so, let her come out and show it in public. Other participants supported Nangong Yue's words, saying that Ms. Longya must surely have extraordinary abilities. Xiao Lan noticed that this would ruin Miss Longya. Madame herself became very angry from this. Nangong Yue haughtily looked down and asked Princess Longyu if she had any talent to show off. Princess Longya said that she had talent and added that she would go backstage and prepare her performance. Standing up, Mrs. Longya turned to her protectors and ordered them to come with her. Nangong Yue said that everyone was frantically waiting for her performance, but she herself knew that Princess Longya had no talent. Princess Longya walked from side to side, wondering what she should do. She thought maybe she could do 2 sword dances or play a little guzheng, and the last thing Longya knew was a couple of songs from northern Xinjiang. Princess Longya looked at the boys and shouted to them that they should help her pick something out. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun were surprised at these words, but said that they didn't know how to do anything themselves either. The insolent princess ordered the boys to find some way or she would kill them. It was a military order from her. Xiao Lan finally came up with an idea, and raising his hand, asked Princess Longya to listen, and then she could surprise the audience. Enough time had already passed and the hall was empty, waiting on Princess Longya with her performance. Nangong Yue laughed and said that a person should be sent to check if Princess Longya had escaped. Nangong's laughter and the audience's waiting was interrupted by Princess Longya in a white dress. She finally came out with Xiao Lan and Chen Shun. One of the seated observers couldn't understand why Princess Longya's 2 guards were dressed as women. Another thought it was a joke. Xiao Lan wondered if it would work out. They were able to learn the song, but he didn't know how much Princess Longya could memorize. Combining it with the dance, there was a chance to make up for everything. With a wave of her hand, Nangong Yue told Princess Longya to finally show the performance she had arranged for her. Princess Longya smiled confidently and signaled Xiao Lan and Chen Shun to start their show. Princess Longya ran her hand over the strings and began her beautiful narration of the song. The entire hall opened in amazement. Everyone who was watching could only open their mouths in astonishment. While Xiao Lan was doing the sword dance, he was thinking, because he didn't expect it to sound so good when performed by Princess Longya. Listening to Princess Longya's song, Nangong Yue was surprised, for she never knew that Longya had such a beautiful voice. Hongdo began to listen to the song and its words, and was immediately shocked. Chamu also realized that Hongdo did as well, and was surprised. They realized that these words were made by Xiao Lan. Even Princess Zishan was shocked. She thought that Xiao Lan had come for this performance. Xiao Lan saw that his friends were starting to think that Xiao Lan was the one who made the song. Princess Longya continued to sing about the deep feelings that made her heart flutter. The gentle song was emphasized by Xiao Lan and Chen Shun, dancing with their swords side by side towards Princess Longya. Xiao Lan's song of sentiment sung by Princess Longya really moved the watchers, and finally came the comforting end to the boys' long song, after which the whole hall fell silent. One of the people watching presented his cup towards Princess Longya, and said that the performance was excellent, and Princess Longya's talent knew no bounds. Starting to laugh, Zishan added affectionate words about young Longya's immense talent. An embarrassed Longya put a hand to her lips and said that she shouldn't have thanked her for it. Soon, Princess Longya noticed the embittered Nangong Yue. She didn't expect this from Longya at all. Nangong Yue became even angrier, and in her thoughts, she promised to take revenge on Princess Longya. During all the squabbling, Xiao Lan suggested that Chen Shun go change the dresses they were wearing. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun walked out into the hallway and went to the dressing room to put on their usual clothes. But a subject passing through the guys accidentally snagged on something and spilled liquid on Xiao Lan's clothes. The subject immediately apologized and started saying it was an accident and how sorry she was. The subject insisted that she would help Xiao Lan and began wiping his face, while Xiao Lan said no need to. When Xiao Lan's face was dry, he went on his way while the subject further apologized. As it turned out, this subject was loyal to Zishan and was always by her side. The subject approached her princess, Zishan, and bent down to tell her something in her ear. Chen Shun asked for this subject, guessing that she was with Zishan. Xiao Lan confirmed Chen Shun's theory. Xiao Lan said that Zishan's intrigue wasn't that deep, she just suspected him in a short time. Chen Shun said that they should be more careful. Xiao Lan agreed. They should have avoided accidents. Later, The joyful Princess Longya scoffed at Nangong Yue's face, or rather, how disgruntled she was. Xiao Lan said how delightful Princess Longya's acting was. She became even more joyful at these words. Princess Longya added compliments to the boys and assigned their titles as deputy commanders. Xiao Lan was surprised and said that they had only joined the Red Guard, and it was unrealistic. Princess Longya said if Xiao Lan and Qianshun messed up, she would kill them. Already after the ceremony, Chamu and Hongdo were discussing what happened during the performances and their guesses. Hongdo asked Chamu's guess as to whether it was Xiao Lan. Chamu confirmed her theory, for no one else could have written such texts. Hongdo smiled and hoped that she could meet him earlier, and that he would avoid all the trouble. Chumu swept up that Xiao Lan would probably just not set himself up, for he was not an ordinary person. At this time, Du Guxing's military strength and his management of the army were flourishing as usual. Du Guxing recognized how the young masters and the girl from the front line almost all fell within her sphere of influence, plus they almost immediately recognized Xiao Lan's identity. Du Guxing insisted that Jin Ming didn't have to do anything, but asked if Xiao's devil had been found. Jin Ming replied that the entire Zhang dynasty had been checked. The royal family and the major families had been searching, but every time a clue flashed, it immediately disappeared. There were 3 big families involved for sure. Du Guxing said that now that the clue was clear, he decided to go to the Black Dragon sect. Du Guxing ordered to gather all available warriors and heads. They will move out to fight. Qianshun and Xiao Lan's sleep was interrupted by an unwelcome guest. Someone had sneaked into their courtyard. The enemy immediately appeared over the sleeping Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan himself didn't know anything yet, and continued to sleep. As soon as Xiao Lan smelled danger, he opened his eyes and threw 3 knives towards the enemy. Immediately after that, Qianshun was behind the enemy with a knife and ordered him not to move. In the end, the enemy was surrounded. Qianshun kept him on guard with his blade, and Xiao Lan prepared his soul in case the enemy threw something out. Qianshun asked who was the enemy. The enemy said that he needed Princess Longya. If Qianshun or Xiao Lan gave away her place, he wouldn't touch them. Xiao Lan said he would not give away Princess Longya, and told Qianshun to notify everyone of the enemy. The enemy turned around and decided to attack Qianshun to keep his information about him quiet. But Qianshun knew that he would escape in time and decided to summon his soul speed. Then he immediately went outside the building, or rather on the roof, to warn the others. Qianshun warned everyone about the intruder, and shouted to the others to protect Princess Longya Fire. The enemy heard Qianshun's words and realized that his situation had become even worse. He had been exposed. The mysterious opponent immediately ran outside and wanted to run away. But Xiao Lan stood in front of him and said that he wouldn't let that happen. The opponent's hand was covered with a red aura, and he jumped to attack Xiao Lan, shouting for him to die. When the opponent's hand was in front of Xiao Lan, he swept up his enemy's rather great speed. Their fight was stopped by my lady Longya. She showed herself in front of everyone and asked them to stop the fight. Xiao Lan was afraid for the princess and asked her to leave, for the enemy was an assassin. Milady Longya walked up to her opponent tightly and grabbed his mask. Xiao Lan was even more frightened. After which, without even flinching, Princess Longya tore off the bandage of the assassin that didn't try to fight back. The man asked my lady Longya how dare she do such a thing, with him wanting to kill her. Princess Longya said that her daddy did the attack every time she changed the deputy and asked him not to do that anymore. Xiao Lan and Qianshun were thrown into absolute shock upon learning that it was Princess Longya's father. Dr. Longya simply said that she changes people often and they need to be checked out. General Longya returned his seriousness and praised the boys, saying they had done their job well. Princess Longya sighed heavily and said that all the guards at the mansion were at least warlord level, and it was almost impossible for people to pass through. Xiao Lan and Qianshun folded their hands and apologized. In his thoughts, Xiao Lan knew that it was someone of his own, which was why he didn't kill him. General Longya said that the guy's reaction was good, but the level wasn't high enough. He wanted to surround Princess Longya with warlord-level guards. Princess Longya said that she didn't need such a guard, because the general's guards were lifeless uncles. The general said that the god of war ordered to prepare for the fall hunt in the war against the Z dynasty. Princess Longya said that it was cool, because the Red Guard would finally be able to show off their abilities in battle. General Longya asked his daughter for one thing, to return from the battlefield alive. The general added that if a single hair fell from Princess Longya's head, he would kill Xiao Lan and Qianshun. Longya ordered the boys to go rest. The next day they would go get the tiger mascot and prepare for war. Xiao Lan and Qianshun agreed with the princess. In his mind, Xiao Lan didn't expect that he would get into the battle so quickly, but that only made him happy. The two dynasties had countless young children who grew up every year and then traveled to northern Xinjiang or the snowy desert city to test themselves. Many of them were elite children of countless royal families. Every fall, the armies of both sides are silently motionless, and when the elite children of both sides lead their troops into northern Xinjiang, a new round of war begins in the psychological forest. A huge army, and including the Red Guard, were on their way to that very psychological forest. Xiao Lan asked about the exact number of Red Guard troops. Princess Longya said that there were exactly 100 of them. Xiao Lan asked the princess not to think he was pessimistic, but each of the enemies had at least 10,000 troops, and they would be wiped out immediately. Princess Longya said there was nothing for them to do, for she didn't want to wait for next year just like that. Longya added that there should be a battle anyway. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun are deputy commanders, so they should have been in charge of it. Xiao Lan said that he had heard that the Ji dynasty had sent some new leaders, which were several tens of thousands. The war could last for several months. Xiao Lan suggested to form a battle strategy and train the soldiers. Xiao Lan was relieved, for if an army of 100 warriors immediately went into battle, they would be trampled without any difficulty. Chen Shun asked Xiao Lan if they really wanted to go straight to the front line. Xiao Lan said that there were too few of them. Miss Longya was protected, and there was no need to worry. Xiao Lan wanted to practice his vine instead. Qian Shun said he understood and headed out to look for mysterious beasts for Xiao Lan and his vine. Xiao Lan was immensely grateful for Chen Shun's help and apologized for the hardship offering. When Chen Shun left to search, Xiao Lan released his vine and told her that she would eat a lot this day. Xiao Lan released his vine into the ground and ordered it to explore the nearby area. Burying his vine, Xiao Lan realized that there were quite a few all sorts of mystical beasts in the surroundings. Qian Shun returned to Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan immediately wanted to know how his search task had gone. Qian Shun said that there were poisonous scorpions, sandworms, sand ants, and other low-level beasts living nearby. The number of these beasts was astonishing, but they were not a threat. Xiao Lan noticed that the soil was very loose and suitable for creatures making nests underground. This place was like a treasure to Xiao Lan. All because this was the best place to hunt with Xiao Lan's vines. Xiao Lan looked down and said that underneath them was a nest of sand ants. There were thousands of them. Qian Shun asked why Xiao Lan would do that. He replied that Chen Shun would soon find out everything himself, and he should have found more ant logs. Xiao Lan let the vine go deep into the ant hole and ordered it to eat as much as it wanted to. Xiao Lan noticed that his vine started to grow faster and farther. This was quite surprising and joyful, and to miss such an opportunity to grow his vine, Xiao Lan simply could not for any reason. In just 2 hours, Xiao Lan's vine was able to grow 11 meters. If it grew even more, the range of control would be doubled. Xiao Lan said that it wasn't enough. The vine might have grown in length, but the absorption rate was the same, perhaps due to the weakness of the creatures. Qian Shun suggested waiting on stronger creatures. Xiao Lan turned around and said that the Red Guard was still weak for this one. Qian Shun didn't understand what Xiao Lan meant by his idea to strengthen the Red Guard. Xiao Lan said that he had a plan and asked Qian Shun to follow him. Xiao Lan and Qian Shun returned to the Red Guard. Princess Longya asked where the boys had been. Xiao Lan made a report to the princess. They found a high number of low-level beasts, so the guys stayed in the forest for a short while to test their skills. Princess Longya said that she didn't believe in this ruse. Xiao Lan asked the princess and the guards to go with them and see for themselves. Coming to the forest, Princess Longya didn't notice anything. One of the warriors said it was a crime to taunt the commander. Xiao Lan asked to wait a bit, and the show would begin in its full glory and capabilities. As suddenly, many low-grade beasts came out of the forest and ran towards the princess. The guards spotted foxes, sand ants, and lizards, short for level 3 beasts. They all ran at the guys. The guards immediately began to rebuke Xiao Lan, as it was difficult for the Red Guards to control so many beasts. Xiao Lan calmed down and said that everything was under his control. Princess Longya trusted Xiao Lan, while the other guard warriors wanted to see his tricks. Xiao Lan gave a sign to Qian Shun about suitable beasts. Qian Shun immediately became serious and prepared himself, but Kun Xian just stopped and watched as a horde of furious beasts ran towards him. Princess Longya was worried about Qian Shun as it was dangerous, but Xiao Lan simply said that he was out of range of the attacks. And when one of the beasts took another step, every last one of them was pierced in an instant. Princess Longya and the guards were shocked, for all the beasts were killed so quickly and easily. Xiao Lan smiled and told Princess Longya that all the low-level beasts had been killed. Princess Longya began to recognize for Xiao Lan's strength, as she had not expected such terrifying strength from him. Xiao Lan said that his technique would soon become a deadly weapon of the Red Guard army. Later at the base, they discussed the dangers of the psychological forest, and that if you set traps properly, you could safely kill someone. Xiao Lan wanted to get permission from the princess so that he could pick people and train them in important techniques. Princess Lonja was willing to train her warriors in the powerful technique and promised a reward for doing so. Princess Lonja approached Xiao Lan and showered him with compliments, saying he was her blessing. But the guys were distracted by the report. The warrior said that the advance army was attacked by the Z dynasty in the psychological forest, led by 2 royal-level military princes and several influential people of a mysterious sect. In the end, the army suffered heavy casualties. Princess Lonja was shocked at what had happened. So quickly were the devastating losses sustained. Xiao Lan heard about the mysterious sect and understood everything. Chen Shun also had a hunch. Xiao Lan recalled Du Guxing's words that the blood sect would recruit disciples from outside sects, give secret medicines and secret skills to develop them, and send them to various battlefields for actual combat. Those who survived would become the pillars of the Ji dynasty. That's when Xiao Lan realized that killing his grandfather and parents lay on the blood sect. Xiao Lan promised himself to kill them all. Princess Lonja noticed the terrifying aura and the burden on Xiao Lan's heart. She asked what happened to him. Xiao Lan came to his senses and said that he was just a little angry because of the great losses. Princess Lonja said not to worry, they had to pay back this blood debt to the Z dynasty. The subject said that he would go back to the commander, but another piece of news came. Young Master Ni Chang and young Patriarch Cha Mu have joined the army. Her Royal Highness sits on the northern border. Leader Zuo Jian and leader Dongfang also led the army into the psychological forest. Princess Lonja stated that the Red Guard would also join the war. Lonja also added an order of total obedience to Commander-in-Chief Xiao Lan. After training, they would all immediately go to the psychological forest to fight for the dead. The warriors started shouting for revenge against the blood sect. Xiao Lan folded his arms and said that he would do the right thing, while Qianxun and Xiao Lan were walking. Qianxun asked if it was true that Xiao Lan wanted to kill the entire blood sect, because his identity might have been revealed. Xiao Lan said that he was sure these people were indeed a blood sect, and he would find another way if the identity was revealed. But the sect had killed his grandfather and parents. He couldn't let them go so easily. Qianxun accepted Xiao Lan's decision and said that he would go with him anyway. Xiao Lan told Qianxun to take care of the operation while he was in the dark forest. The main activity for everyone was to increase their strength. Since Xiao Lan was already going to do such things, he had to give his best in training as well. Xiao Lan commanded the vine to devour everything it saw and everything it could reach. This place was to be the hunting ground for Xiao Lan's grapevine. 3 days later, Qianxun came to Xiao Lan to give him new news, but upon entering the forest, he was devastated. In just 3 days, Xiao Lan was able to completely remove the trace of any life from this forest. A vine struck the ground next to Qianxun. This was what caught his attention. Xiao Lan told Qianxun that he had come to him in the dark forest right at the perfect time. Xiao Lan asked Qianxun to help him try out the vine's new power. Before Qianxun could say anything, he saw the vine was already beside him behind his back. Qianxun was horrified by the new speed of the vine. It had increased many times over these 3 days. Qianxun dodged the vine's strikes with his soul speed, but even that brought him many problems. But Qianxun couldn't dodge forever, and soon, his foot was soon seized by a vine from underground. He couldn't understand how the vine had gotten so fast in 3 miserable days. And then another vine stopped right in front of Qianxun's eye. The fight was over rather quickly. Xiao Lan stopped the vine and asked Qianxun what he thought of this power. Qianxun said that he tried his best to escape, but it didn't work out. Xiao Lan said that in these 3 days, he had tracked down a large number of low and mid-level beasts at the edge of the forest, and finally achieved excellent results. All attributes had been greatly improved, but unfortunately, the devouring ability had not developed. Qianxun added that if Xiao Lan's soul was revealed, it would definitely cause a big mess. Those in the Blood Sect and the Black Dragon Society would want to get rid of Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan was afraid that he would be a thorn in the eyes of the strong and decided to keep his strength a secret. When he became strong enough, he would simply trample all the enemies and shake the continent. Qianxun said that he would follow Xiao Lan until he himself died, or rather his whole life. Xiao Lan said that the main target was the army in the Ji dynasty in the psychological forest. But Qianxun had come to Xiao Lan for some reason, which meant there was some news. As it turned out, Dongfang Aoran's 10,000 guardsmen were defeated in a bloody fall. Dongfang Aoran was on the cusp of death, and all the dead soldiers were torn to pieces. Wanwei, led by General Luo Feng's son, was defeated by the Prince of Xia dynasty. In the end, only 4 of the 10,000 returned out of the 10,000. Xiao Lan said that only Dojian was able to defeat the Xi dynasty Blood Moon army, but suffered heavy losses. The Zhang dynasty was defeated in this fall hunt. Contrary to expectations, the Xi dynasty would be the winner. Xiao Lan decided to return to the Red Guard army and told Qianshun to follow him. In such a short period of time, tens of thousands of soldiers, military leaders, and reserve leaders were killed. Zishan said that the morale of their army had plummeted. Now they needed a big victory. Master Cha Mu and Master Ni Kong were both good generals of commanding rank. Zishan hoped that they could defeat the Xi dynasty and raise their army. Cha Mu and Nietsang promised to do literally everything in their power to win the game. Zishan knew that this fall hunt was a disgrace to the Zhang dynasty. She could only pray that the hero would come into the world. Xiao Lan was meditating at this time. His skills progressed evenly. Eventually he could enter the battlefield in a week's time. A week with the pill and the purple vine would be enough for Xiao Lan to break through to the battle commander. Xiao Lan also had a martial skill book from Du Gu Xing, but he didn't understand anything in it. Although something still captured Xiao Lan's eye, he was able to understand the technique part of the book. Breath-holding technique, hidden form technique, joint technique. One can hide one's breath after practicing. A warrior above the 4th realm could not be exposed by the true realm. Using the breath-holding technique together with the hidden form technique, Xiao Lan would not be able to be detected tens of thousands of kilometers away. Xiao Lan realized how useful the book was, but unfortunately there was no technique to hide the vine. Even though Xiao Lan didn't understand the stealth technique, he decided to practice the breath-holding technique. 4 days later, Xiao Lan's techniques were getting better and better under the influence of cultivation. Qianshun swept Xiao Lan's speed of development. Xiao Lan decided to hunt down another wave of beasts and test his strength at this stage. Qianshun agreed, but he was surprised, because after Xiao Lan's first hunt, almost all the beasts disappeared from the forest. Xiao Lan was literally burning with the desire to kill every member of the blood sect with revenge motives. Now the low-level beasts couldn't satisfy the vine. Xiao Lan decided to enter the psychological forest to find bigger prey. Another report came to Princess Longya. The dynasty's army was defeated again. Dozens of families lost many heirs, and Lord Dongfang Xuan's son was killed. More than 20,000 soldiers died. But Zuojian had won a small victory. Princess Longya said that support comes fast, but losing even faster. Only Zuojian tried to hold on with all her might. Every noble family has not been stingy in sending an heir to the front. It's all just for the sake of battle merit. This kind of education improves everyone's strength. But this generation is pretty thin. Xiao Lan didn't know who would win in this spring hunt, but he came to Princess Longya with a report. Princess Longya turned around and excitedly wanted to know Xiao Lan's progress, and when the Red Guard would be able to participate in the battle. Xiao Lan said that everything was going well, and the Red Guard would be able to march on the enemy after 3 days. The exit was in 3 days, and Xiao Lan bore the responsibility of it all. It was time to avenge the dead. Qianshun trained the guards while Xiao Lan quietly meditated in his seat. Princess Longya watched Xiao Lan. He could excel. Xiao Lan had practiced a lot on refining himself. Longya felt sorry that he was just a barbarian, but Princess Longya wanted him by her side, and at her side anyway. Xiao Lan noticed how often Princess Longya thought of him, but unfortunately, his true identity was a mystery to her. In any case, when the fall hunt is over, his not real identity, Yao Shi, will disappear. Finally, in 3 days, the army assembled and left their post to enter the front lines. Princess Longya told the boys that Zhang Bei's army was ahead of them and was in charge of receiving the fall hunt. They should have reported to the princess in the city first. Xiao Lan asked the princess to take over his tasks as he wanted to take Qianshun with him and investigate the psychological forest for traps. Princess Longya reminded of the dangers of the forest and asked the boys if they really wanted to go there, just the 2 of them. Xiao Lan said that they would be very careful, especially since it was for reconnaissance, so no one else could go but them. Princess Longya ordered the boys to return safely. If they contribute, they will be rewarded. Qianshun told Xiao Lan that the place was gloomy and he needed to be careful. Xiao Lan told him to check the forest for strong beasts and enemies. Just then, Qianshun left to search for strong beasts in the most dangerous part of the forest. Half an hour later, Xiao Lan noticed a huge result. The purple vine had grown to almost 80 meters tall. Xiao Lan's attention was diverted by a sign from the vine. She had discovered something and wanted to go there. Xianxun returned and told Xiao Lan that he had detected a team of bloody barbarian scouts ahead. About 7 or 8 miles away, moreover, their level was high. Xiao Lan decided to go straight to them. It was necessary to use these poor souls to practice Xiao Lan's techniques. The blood warriors slowly investigated the area and suspected nothing. While they couldn't see anything, Xiao Lan's vine Xiao Lan began to slowly creep up on them. Suddenly, all 3 men were enveloped by the vine and pulled into the air to immobilize them. Qianxun heard the screams and asked Xiao Lan if they were all dead from the effects of the vine. The warriors were indeed dead, but Qianxun didn't expect them to go this far into their domain. Xiao Lan said that they must have not only come to reconnoiter. Xiao Lan launched the vine into the ground so that it would check the entire area near them, and his theory turned out to be true. Over 100 men marching ahead along the edge of the forest, it was a small army. These scouts were tracking them and relaying information at high range. Xiao Lan and Qianxun decided to split up. If they were really bloody barbarians, they had to kill them. But if the situation was bad, then they should immediately run away. Xiao Lan used his new restrained breathing technique to hide from his opponents. Just as Xiao Lan ran off in his direction, he noticed a group of warriors passing by. Xiao Lan noticed Chamu on the shoulders of one of the warriors. Their group was retreating after a loss. Qianxun came to Xiao Lan and reported that hundreds of warriors were led by the leader. They had to run away. Xiao Lan said that he couldn't leave since Chamu had been captured by the enemies, and he didn't want to let the blood sect go so easily. Qianxun added that the leader was the god of war. Xiao Lan rejoiced and said that he hadn't killed the god of war yet. Qianxun didn't understand Xiao Lan's negligence. Xiao Lan said that he would just not let them pass. But if something happened, then Qianxun would have to run away. Xiao Lan immediately ran away. Qianxun didn't have time to say anything, much less change his mind. It was still very dangerous, but Xiao Lan was going for broke like a mindless beast. The blood warriors had finally arrived, just as Xiao Lan had expected them. Now all that was left was to make a trap for them. Xiao Lan summoned his soul and asked the vine to make a trap for them. Xiao Lan noticed the person in charge of this group. A tall man with an iron collar and signs on his body. This was the War King. Xiao Lan felt that his strength exceeded this person. Xiao Lan waited for him to approach up to 5 meters. Starting from 100, he slowly waited. When the god of war was close enough, Xiao Lan gave the order for his vine to spread out across the area and capture the warriors. The vine surrounded the enemies, and they immediately became frightened, fearing it was an enemy ambush. Xiao Lan had succeeded in making his enemies panic and decided to leave this place before it was too late. The god of war waved his axe and shouted loudly to quiet his warriors. Xiao Lan noticed the war god's strength and was not frightened. His strength had clearly become greater. The god of war then ordered the warriors to split up and continue to pursue Chamu. Xiao Lan heard his plans that the others would be pursued by the remnants of the warriors. Xiao Lan couldn't let this happen and released his vine to attack the god of war. The god of war turned around and cut Xiao Lan's vine, calling it a cheap trick. Xiao Lan's attack did not succeed at all. He was in a terribly bad position and suffered a lot of damage on himself. Xiao Lan had to be more careful, for he could very well lose to the god of war. The god of war, however, turned towards Xiao Lan and said that he knew where he was hiding, after which he struck the ground with his axe, and a large burst of force flew towards Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan could not dodge this blow. He could not move his body at all. Immediately after the first strike, the god of war was over Xiao Lan and was swinging for a second strike. Qianxun managed to use his soul and save Xiao Lan from being struck by the war god's axe. The blow almost took Xiao Lan's life, but a large mark in the ground was left afterward. Qianxun grabbed Xiao Lan's hand and they started to run away. Qianxun said that the god of war was not someone they could handle. The god of war noticed the guys running away, but he couldn't understand Xiao Lan's strength and his strange plant. But it didn't matter since Xiao Lan and Qianxun were very dangerous and worth killing. The warriors with Chamu wondered why they weren't being pursued. Another warrior said the bloody barbarians were stopped by someone else. It was obvious that the god of war had detained a small army, or even a couple people. Either way, the guards were immensely grateful. The guards had no time to think. They needed to escape from the forest and call for reinforcements to surround the bloody barbarians. Only the mysterious force that had helped them could already be destroyed. Qianxun asked Xiao Lan what to do, for he was, as it were, running at full speed. Xiao Lan said that everything was under control and asked Xiao Lan not to deviate from the path. Qianxun asked where they were going. Xiao Lan said he planned everything and dropped the vine seed on the ground. Xiao Lan's ploy worked for the god of war. His leg was enveloped by a small vine from the ground below him. The god of war noticed that the plant could pierce armor and it was hard to get out of it. Xiao Lan stopped Qianxun and told him to go to the tree in front. The god of war wanted to get rid of them, but they had to kill him earlier. Qianxun said that he felt some strong beast beside them. Xiao Lan said that it was a gift for the god of war. The god of war mocked the boys for surrendering, and unfortunately, he liked to watch his prey die. A strange tremor on the ground distracted the god of war. He began to ask the boys if this was their ruse. A huge arachnoid, the monster appeared in front of the god of war and attacked him with a loud roar. It was a level 7 beast, a one-eyed spider. The god of war was afraid of the strong beast. The god of war was now in a bad position and had to run away from the strongest beast. The spider interrupted the god of war's run by spitting its web at him, whereupon he found himself enveloped in its sticky web. The god of war shouted at the spider to stay back as it slowly took steps in his direction. Xiao Lan didn't expect the purple vine to find such a strong beast, and was overjoyed. Qianxun told stories about this spider, saying it had killed thousands of soldiers on one of the spring hunts. Xiao Lan said that there was nothing to be afraid of, as after fighting the bloody barbarian, Xiao Lan would simply devour him. Xiao Lan continued to mock the desperate war god. He wanted to see his pathetic attempts to survive. The god of war decided to attack. Since the spider wanted to take his life, he had to fight for it. The god of war struck straight at the spider, but his blow had almost no effect on the spider's body. The spider thread was too strong, he couldn't escape. The god of war had no choice but to fight to the death. But by some miracle, some of the thread broke on the body of the god of war, and he rejoiced in it. Not only did joy come to the mind of the god of war, he decided to use this as a good chance to attack the beast, but his attack was interrupted by Xiao Lan. The vine took the god of war by the leg and stopped him. Spider saw that the god of war had become immobilized and decided to make his attack himself, after which he was able to pierce through him. Xiao Lan's plan worked exactly as he wanted it to. Xiao Lan thought that a 7th level beast and a god of war at one time was remarkable. Immediately, the vine began to crawl from all sides, surrounding the spider and the god of war completely. The god of war was completely shrouded and immobilized by the vine, as well as a 7th level spider. After a while, the vine swallowed the god of war and the 7th level mystical spider beast. Xiao Lan didn't think that the blood barbarian would do so much damage to the strongest spider, but he took advantage of it. Xiao Lan told Qianxun that this was a strategy, and Qianxun should have learned. Qianxun said that he wouldn't become like this in 10 lifetimes either. The vine began to emit the light of evolution. The purple vine was able to become more resilient, but Xiao Lan decided to try out other aspects of his purple vine's evolution, and launched it into the ground. Although the vine had grown to 150 meters and increased in strength, but the ability to absorb had not become stronger. The vine surely needed another evolution. Xiao Lan wanted to find other bloody barbarians and test the vine enhancement on them. Qianxun agreed. Qianxun told Xiao Lan that there were no strong warriors in the area. Xiao Lan decided to release his vine. The bloody barbarian noticed something under his feet and couldn't figure out what it was. The bloody barbarian was immediately enveloped by the vine, starting from his feet to his torso. The vine immediately pulled the bloody barbarian underground, giving him no way to get out or breathe. Qianxun noticed that Xiao Lan's soul had turned into an independent unit. The stability and control had also improved. Xiao Lan realized that it was because of the 7th level beast. Only after the purple vine materialized, its corroding and absorbing skills had deteriorated a bit, also easier to detect. Xiao Lan called Qianxun with him since he had thought of something and wanted to try it out. The blood barbarian noticed Xiao Lan in front of him, and began to taunt who dared to appear in front of him. Xiao Lan introduced himself as a witch of the forest who had come to give them punishment for their actions. The bloody warriors said that no one from the Zhang dynasty could defeat them and mocked Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan said that he would use his magic to send the bloody barbarians to hell. A dozen vines started aiming towards the warriors, and they immediately became frightened, calling Xiao Lan a mage and a ghost. Xiao Lan ordered the warriors to run to their master and tell him that the mountain god's wrath would envelop their entire army. Qianxun laughed, for the warriors really believed it. Xiao Lan wanted to continue to panic among the enemies to eventually defeat them easily and simply. Shui Hongyu was surprised that Shi Shang, the god of war, had died during the attack on the Zhang dynasty group. The subject said that the god of war Xie Shan was blocked by a wizard while chasing the enemy. When scouts arrived, only traces of battle and the remains of a one-eyed spider were found. Shu Hongyu was angry at Xiao Lan's strength after all. He could kill his general and wanted to know who he was personally. The subject said that the sorcerer was still attacking small units of the Z Dynasty army. According to the survivor's description, his sorcery is strange and terrifying, killing invisible people. He also claimed that the wrath of the mountain god would soon engulf their army. The prince stood up and called it nonsense. He had never seen or heard of such a powerful wizard from the Zhang dynasty. He ordered to send an army to him and capture him. More subjects rushed to the prince and told him that Master Shushi had been killed by Zhuo Jianyang. His 8,000-man army had also been halved. The prince shouted that the most important thing was that he was the son of Marshal Shu. The prince didn't know how to explain that to the marshal. The prince ordered the message to Shu Gui, Shu Xian, and Shu So to have their armies come to the aid of their troops. Xiao Lan's vine continued to terrorize the warriors of the Z Dynasty group by pretending to be a witch. Fortunately, after a busy day, hundreds of bloody warriors, 20 warlords, and 3 respected warriors were killed by Xiao Lan's hand. After the purple vine consumed them, one could collect the armor of the enemies to reinforce his army. Qian Shun signaled to Xiao Lan that the Zhang dynasty army with many war kings was approaching them. Xiao Lan agreed that the force was large, but they were allies. Xiao Lan recognized the leader of this group. It was Zhuo Jian, but Xiao Lan had to play along. The Jian guards wanted to know what had happened here. After all, there had been a battle with the troops of bloody barbarians here. Xiao Lan said that they were ordered to make a reconnaissance, and he didn't know what happened here. Zhuo Jian called Xiao Lan's words nonsense. From the smell of blood, one could tell that the battle had just ended, and Xiao Lan and Qian Shun's scent had been here for a long time, which meant that they must have known what had happened. Xiao Lan didn't expect Qian Shun to guess that they were fighting here, and was extremely surprised. Zhu Jian came closer on his horse and placed his spear in front of Xiao Lan's throat. Zhuo Hian said, "If Xiao Lan doesn't tell the truth here and now, he will kill him." Xiao Lan decided to reveal the truth and said that he was attacked by a dozen enemies with 2 warriors. Xiao Lan realized that if the Zhu family suspected something, there could be big problems. Zhu Jian questioned Xiao Lan. How could he kill everyone without getting injured and remove the corpses of dozens of warriors? Xiao Lan said that they acted stealthily and threw the corpses into a pit created by a Lishan magic. Zhuo Jian did not believe in sorcery and asked Xiao Lan to demonstrate it in person, for they would be recognized as spies. Xiao Lan bowed and said that he would soon show the power of Alishan's sorcery and create a pit. The warriors didn't understand what kind of nonsense Xiao Lan was doing. He started addressing some gods, but Xiao Lan's prayers were answered, and a large purple aura formed behind him. After which, this aura passed through the ground and created a large hole like the one Zhuo Jian had seen earlier. Everyone was astonished by Xiao Lan's terrifying sorcery. They had never seen such techniques before. Zhuo Jian laughed and sized up the guys' strength, then invited them to join his Zhuo army. Xiao Lan said that they were loyal to Commander Longya now. Zhuo Jian said that he would personally talk to Longya, for choosing Zhuo's army would be a much better choice. Of course, the power of the purple vine was very tempting. Zhuo Jian really wanted to hire guys, and he didn't know what to do. The subject made a countdown. Commander-in-Chief Dongfang led an army to lend support. The request was to see the leader. Xiao Lan heard that Dongfang Aran was coming here and thought it was a good opportunity. Aran Dongfang appeared and congratulated Zhuo Jian for killing a disciple of the mysterious sect. Zhuo Yin said that these words were undeserved, after all. He had just collapsed a weak sect, and he had beheaded the emperor's son. Aran Dongfang said that this sect disciple's identity seemed to be complicated. The bloody barbarians were so enraged that the entire army chased after them. Everyone should have returned to the camp first. Xiao Lan told Qian Shun that the bloody barbarians were now attacking. They had to avoid them, also find an opportunity and let them return to the camp first. Zhugen was called all sorts of heroic names as he walked back to the camp. Zisen also congratulated Zhuo Jian on his victorious return from an important case. Zhu Jian put one knee on the ground and generously thanked Princess Zishan. Zishan said that the festive party led by Zhuo was ready. The princess would accompany them tonight. Zhuo Jian said that it was an honor for him to do so. The subjects were surprised. After all, the princess herself would accompany them. Zhuo Jian was a hero worthy of the princess. According to others, Xiao Lan thought that accompanying the princess was a good thing. Since after destroying Shu's disciples, Xiao Lan and Qian Shun could receive a reward. Xiao Lan said that Zhuo Jing could not yet take care of them now. They should have met with the Red Guard first. Xiao Lan discussed what had happened with Qian Shun already in the Red Guard territory. Qian Shun asked if it would raise doubts among the others. Xiao Lan said, using sorcery as a cover, everything could have been under control. Jinming entered the guy's tent and said that they had already most likely aroused suspicion. Xiao Lan wondered how Jingming had even gotten to them and asked what he had come for. Jingming said that many people in the capital suspected the guys. Jingming asked why Xiao Lan was communicating with Zuo Jian and where the bloody barbarians had gone to. Xiao Lan was able to improve his divine soul, killed a war king and many beasts, including a 7th level one, killed almost 100 people, and met Zuo Jian. Xiao Lan probably didn't know what it was to hold back. Xiao Lan said that this was only the beginning. His main target was the mysterious sect and the emperor's son. Xiao Lan wanted to clarify which sect they were from. Jingming confirmed that they were indeed disciples of the blood sect. Anger appeared on Xiao Lan's face. He knew it was all a blood sect, so he knew it was all a blood sect. Jingming said that Du Guxing knew that he would attack the Z dynasty at any cost. So he came up with a strategy to keep those from revealing their identity. Jingming handed Xiao Lan 2 vials, the same ones the medicine emperor had given them. Jingming said that these were the disguise and its undoing pills. After regaining his appearance, Xiao Lan had to teleport to the hidden sect, get to the Mountain of Death, massacre there and return. This way no one would guess Xiao Lan's identity under the disguise. It was a good trick. Leaving, Jingming said that northern Xinjiang and Death Mountain were thousands of miles apart. But with teleportation, it wouldn't take much time. Xiao Lan asked Chen Shun to stay and keep an eye on what was going on, and he went after Jingming himself. In this way, Xiao Lan could remain Alashantemi without suspicion, and set up a battle in northern Xinjiang. 2 hours after Jingming's plan, news of Xiao Lan and the Mountain of Death came to Princess Zishan. She didn't believe it at all. The subject said that Xiao Lan found the killer, and after the fight, his body was corroded to the bone. Only Xiao Lan could do this. Zishan didn't think that Xiao Lan would end up on the Mountain of Death, and was now deluded about Yao Shi. Jingming made sure that Xiao Lan's identity was safe and told him that he could fight without looking back. But even so, one had to be careful, as the Z dynasty could stage a hunt for Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan asked Jingming to convey his thanks to Du Guxing, and added that he would wash the entire Z dynasty with blood, after which he would glorify Yao Xi's name throughout northern Xinjiang. Jingming began to disappear and said that he would expect good news from Xiao Lan for his progress. Xiao Lan finally returned to the Red Guard camp and noticed a depressed Chen Shun. Noticing Xiao Lan, Chen Shun was very excited to see him coming, but he had a problem. Princess Longya sat in the tent and asked Xiao Lan what kind of relationship he had with Zuo Jian. Chen Shun said that not long ago, Zuo Bin sent a messenger to convey the invitation. The commander agreed. Xiao Lan said that on their way back, they met Zu's group and just went back to the camp with him. Princess Longya became angry. She couldn't believe that after one meeting, Zuo Jian had called Xiao Lan to a banquet. Xiao Lan said that he wouldn't lie to the princess, and added that Zuo Jian noticed them killing the bloody barbarians and decided to lure them to his side. Princess Longya considered it a betrayal, saying Xiao Lan had betrayed the Red Guard and taken refuge with Zuo Jian. Xiao Lan dodged her punch and asked Princess Longya to listen to him fully. Princess Longya asked Xiao Lan if she was not in comparison with Zuo Jian. Xiao Lan grabbed Princess Longya's hand and swore to her that she was his only commander. Princess Longya was embarrassed, yet flattered by these words. She did not expect such a response. Princess Longya asked Xiao Lan if that was the case to see if his words were right. Xiao Lan said that yes, that was why he refused Zuo Jian, but he didn't expect Zuo Jian to send them an invitation. Princess Longya said that Zuo Jiang just wanted to entice Xiao Lan to join him by force. Princess Longya decided to allow the banquet hike. She wanted to see Zuo Jian steal her men. Xiao Lan said that Zuo Jian was very famous, and it was not profitable to quarrel with him. Princess Longya shouted that she was from the Longya family, and no one would dare to offend her. Xiao Lan agreed with her words, but said that he had a plan for this situation. With an evil smirk on her face, Princess Longya agreed to Xiao Lan's sinister plan. The next day, Chen Shun and Xiao Lan appeared at Zuo Jian's camp. Zuo Jian himself said that a banquet had been prepared especially for them. Xiao Lan asked Zuo Jian to wait with the banquet since they had only come to respond to the invitation. Xiao Lan said that they were loyal to Princess Longya and would never betray her faith in them. Zuo Jiang got angry and started asking Xiao Lan how he could even compare the Longya family and the Zuo family. Xiao Lan said that he thought it over and was about to leave, but the guys wouldn't leave so easily. The exit of the tent was blocked by a dozen of Zuo Jian's subjects. Commander Zuo said that they couldn't leave so easily. Xiao Lan wanted to know why. Zuo Jiang said that Xiao Lan should have joined his guard. He didn't want to do it by force. Xiao Lan scoffed at these words and wanted to see if the noble Zuo Jiang could stop him. Zuo Jiang ordered the subjects to arrest the rough Xiao Lan and Chen Shun to keep them from leaving. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun beat the warriors without difficulty due to their physical strength. Zhu Zhang wanted to attack from behind Xiao Lan and rushed at him asking if he still wanted to leave. Although Xiao Lan had dodged Zhuo Jian's punch, but he was slightly hurt, and from the impact, he flew out of the tent. Zhuo Zhang approached Xiao Lan and asked who his master was right now. With a smirk, Xiao Lan hesitated for a moment. Yai replied that Zhuo Jiang's first order of business was to ask Princess Longya who his commander was. Princess Longya told Zhuo Jian to stay away from her people and not to harm them. Zhu Zhang asked Lonyu if she had lost her mind. She dared to sneak into his territory, so also to harm his guards. Princess Longya asked if he was out of line for deciding to steal her people by force. Longya asked Zhuo Jian to attack her since she disliked him from the first time they met and deserved a whipping. Commander Zhuo Jiang got angry and shouted out, emitting a large surge of aura that threw Princess Longya away. Xiao Lan jumped up and managed to grab Princess Longya in midair so that she wouldn't get hurt. Xiao Lan asked Zhuo Jian if he was going to kill them, and Princess Longya asked for help. Zhuo Jiang didn't understand what they were talking about and why they were talking nonsense and asking for help. General Longya and his subject appeared at the Zhuo camp and asked who dared to attack his daughter. Zhu Jiang said she made her hit her, Princess Longya replied, saying she didn't hear him. Xiao Lan saw how Zhuo Jiang was scared. Making General Longya come here was a good plan. General Longya approached his daughter and wanted to know what had happened. Princess Longya said that Zhuo Jian wanted to take the deputies away from her by force, and when she tried to persuade him, he wished to kill them all. Xiao Lan noticed the person that arrived with General Longya. It was Jing Li, or rather the second person in strength. General Longya got angry and told Zhuo Jian to put the jokes aside. Jing Li agreed. Zhuo Jiang told the two generals that it was a misunderstanding. He only invited them to his place. But Miss Longya stormed towards Zhu's camp. It was self-defense. Princess Longya said that Zhuo Jiang used force and couldn't admit it, which meant he was a coward. General Longya said that he really stole two subordinates from Princess Longya while not taking the Longya family seriously. He should have been taught a lesson. Second General Jing Li said that General Longya should have stopped. Zhuo Jiang didn't mean to harm the Longya family. They just misunderstood each other, and both were at fault. We should have let Zhuo Jiang know that next time he would answer strictly according to the military laws. General Jing Li told General Longya, "You shouldn't have harmed Zhuo Jian, and especially not in the camp." General Longya said he would forgive him this time and decided to leave with Princess Longya. Zhuo Jiang knew that Xiao Lan and Chen Shun couldn't be simple barbarians, and one had to be careful with them. Jing Li warned Zhuo Jian that he shouldn't have been so arrogant because he had caused trouble. Zhu Jiang was angry because he had experienced great humiliation and wanted to take revenge on Xiao Lan and Princess Longya. General Longya asked the princess if she realized how reckless her act was. Princess Longya said that she could not tolerate the brazen recruitment of her men. General Longya asked if the two subjects were really worth invading the barracks and becoming Zhuo's enemy without hesitation. Princess Longya said that Xiao Lan and Chen Shun were the most capable people in her army, saying her father would soon realize what they were worth. General Longya said that he couldn't wait to see the full value of Xiao Lan and Chen Shun. If the incident is resolved, the others will also respect the guys as warriors of Princess Longya. Princess Longya said that she had rebuked Xiao Lan for betraying her for nothing. Now she would trust him more, and he would prove his strength to her in return. Xiao Lan was able to wait for the perfect time to start grand plans. Longya announced that after some minor preparations, they would go out the next day. Rumors went around the Red Guard camp how Commander Zhuo and Commander Longya had fought for Xiao Lan and Chen Shun, and that they had also killed over 100 bloody barbarians. The subject told Zishan about the situation, how Princess Longya had broken into the camp, and the general had decided to discuss the matter in Zhuo Jian's camp. Princess Zishan asked the subjects where Xiao Lan and Chen Shun were. The subject said that they went to the psychological forest with the Red Guard. Zishan ordered her to keep a close eye on Xiao Lan and Chen Shun, and if anything happened, to tell her immediately. The Red Guard, Xiao Lan, Chen Shun, and Princess Longya arrived at the psychological forest. Xiao Lan asked the princess to stop her, as he wanted to tell the surprise to Milady. Xiao Lan revealed that he had killed over 100 bloody barbarians, 10 warlords, 3 commanders-in-chief, and 1 god of war. Princess Longya and her subjects were shocked at what they heard. They didn't know that Xiao Lan was the one who did this. Xiao Lan separated from the group and put on the ring that Uncle Du Guxing had given him. Xiao Lan started carrying the corpses of the bloody barbarians with his purple vine, after which Xiao Lan whistled and signaled Chen Shun to bring the army towards him. Chen Shun said that Xiao Lan had found that very place and asked the princess to follow him. Xiao Lan added that most of the barbarians were killed there. And regarding the god of war, He had to be trapped by a level 7 beast. Princess Longya's subject spotted the corpse of war god Xie Shan and immediately confirmed his identity. From the weapons and armor, it was clear that this was the same son of the city lord of Xiu City, a direct subordinate of the third prince of the Z dynasty. Princess Lonya ordered that these exhibits be brought to the camp for confirmation. Princess Lonya also said she would reward Xiao Lan when they returned. Xiao Lan reported that now the barbarians were walking in groups. They could set traps and use bait to catch them. Princess Lonya said it would be done, and ordered the entire army to enter the forest to track the enemy. The warriors diligently tried their best to make traps according to Xiao Lan's instructions, after which Xiao Lan gave a countdown to Milady Longya to complete the preparations. Princess Lonya's subject made a report that a group of bloody barbarians, about 300 men, had been discovered ahead. It was a golden catch for the Red Guard. Xiao Lan said that it was an ordinary research group and vanguard, so they had to make quick decisions and beware of their support. Princess Longya had sent half of the squad as bait for the barbarians. The other half huddled in the bushes and waited for the explorers to lead the enemies into a trap. The bloody barbarians immediately chased the Red Guards and prevented them from running away. While being pursued by the Red Guard, one of the explorers hit a trap with his foot, and right after that, 2 wooden structures with spikes started flying at him. And so the battlefield became a bloodbath for the bloody barbarians, many of them caught in traps. Princess Lonya jumped out of the ambush and ordered her subjects to kill all the barbarians that didn't fall into the traps. Qianxun asked if they could join. Xiao Lan said that it was still worth waiting since the blood barbarians were high level and could bypass their traps. The explorers started running away to report everything to the third prince. Xiao Lan wanted to stop them. The vine grabbed the fleeing bloody barbarians and immobilized them. One of the explorers of the bloody barbarians pulled out a trombone to signal the danger. Xiao Lan realized that this was very bad and immediately jumped towards him, for he needed to disarm him. Princess Longya asked why the horn sounded. Xiao Lan said that it was a signal for help. Those bloody barbarians were the vanguard. The subject Princess Longya made a report. Away from them was an army. Among them were several war kings. Xiao Lan said that he and Qianxun would hold off the enemies, while the Red Guard and the princess had to escape. The subject said that Xiao Lan and Qianxun would detain them. One must flee, for the bloody barbarians could soon overtake them. The warriors asked the vice commanders to return safely and securely to them. While the guards were fleeing, Princess Lonya asked the boys to run away as fast as possible. Qianxun suggested Xiao Lan to retreat. This time there was a 1,000-man army on the guy's tail. Qianxun asked Xiao Lan not to play games, for it could cost them their lives. Xiao Lan enveloped himself and Qianxun with a vine. This time he was confident in his plan. After a sudden jerk, Qianxun and Xiao Lan found themselves underground due to being dragged by the vine. Underground, the boys found an underground pathway, but it was abandoned and forgotten. In this way, the guys could avoid the War King's attention, but soon, Qianxun had to flee with all his might. Qianxun wanted to know what Xiao Lan was up to. Xiao Lan smirked and said that his plan was to capture the king of their army. Xiao Lan crawled out from the ground and waited for the warriors to come closer to capture the ringleader. Soon, the bloody barbarians were thrusting their entire army toward the Red Guards. The third prince asked where the enemy troops were. They stopped waiting for a report. The barbarians said that they had escaped while the other barbarians were clearing the area of traps. Xiao Lan was quietly observing this. The prince heard about the traps and realized that these were not Zhuojian's warriors, which meant that he needed to find them as quickly as possible. Suddenly, a vine grew out of the ground and almost immediately enveloped the prince. The vine rather tightly enveloped the prince, not giving him a second to react at all. Immediately, the third prince was thrown off his horse and the vine dragged him underground. The bloody barbarians immediately started jumping after their prince. They didn't expect such a trap. Xiao Lan was making his way through the tunnels and told Qianxun that he had captured their victim. Qianxun asked who it was. Xiao Lan replied that it was the third prince of the Shi dynasty, Shu Hongyu. Qianxun was a little surprised that Xiao Lan was able to capture the third prince of the Shi dynasty. Qianxun said that they were already being chased by war gods and bloody barbarians. Xiao Lan said they should run away. The blood barbarians spotted the prince ahead and continued to pursue Xiao Lan with Qianxun. Qianxun was even more surprised. The warriors were quite fast and were catching up with the guys. Xiao Lan said that he would release the energy and blow up the tunnel, then guide Qianxun with a vine. Xiao Lan made a small explosion behind him and blocked the barbarians' path, while he himself continued to run away. Now the barbarians couldn't chase the boys. They began to clear a path to catch up with the prince. Kenshin noticed that the barbarians had famously slowed down, and they could now escape. Xiao Lan had finally gotten hold of the third prince of the blood sect, and could do whatever he wanted with him. Xiao Lan knocked out the prince and tied him up more tightly, then decided to catch up with the Red Guard. Shun said that Xiao Lan had gotten a great reward. No one had ever managed to capture the prince alive before. Xiao Lan said that he was able to catch him since he wasn't the strongest, and it was unexpected. Now the fall hunt will be in their favor. They have caught the leader of almost the whole scheme. The barbarians reported that the third prince had been stolen. It was necessary to surround the entire Zhang dynasty to find him. One of the bloody barbarians decided to get a trombone and let the others know about it. The red barbarians began attacking all nearby warriors and searching for the prince. At the edge of the psychological forest, there was a beautiful mountain and multiple trees towering overhead. Soon the boys would arrive at the camp and finally escape. Princess Lonya and the others were already close enough. Princess Lonya ordered Ma Jia and Ma Shen to quickly send someone to Xiao Lan and Chen Shun's aid. The subordinate noticed that the bloody warriors hadn't caught up with them, which meant Xiao Lan and Chen Shun had already done a good job. Princess Lonya wept and said that nothing bad could have happened to the boys. A subject swept up that with their rank, they couldn't handle a war king, especially with only 2 of them against an army of thousands. Princess Lonya shouted that she had to rescue Xiao Lan safely. The warriors themselves wept as Xiao Lan and Chen Shun gave their sacrifice to save them. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun didn't understand what happened and returned to the Red Guard with the princess on his shoulder. The Red Guard was surprised that they were able to survive and even escape from an army of thousands. The whole guard rejoiced at this event. They were able to return in one piece. Xiao Lan said that they used magic to escape underground, but it wasn't all news. Princess Lonya rushed to Xiao Lan and hugged him. She was afraid that she might have lost him. Xiao Lan apologized for the excitement on her part. The warriors praised Xiao Lan for returning alive and well to them, while another distracted my lady Lonya with flattery. Princess Lonya asked Xiao Lan about whether he would do anything that could kill him. Xiao Lan said no, and added, saying he had brought a big reward along with him. The Red Guard noticed Xiao Lan's captive, but didn't immediately recognize him, and was a little surprised. Xiao Lan revealed that it was the third prince of the Zhi dynasty, Shu Hongyu, and he captured him. In the main hall, there were many reports of convergence of bloody barbarian warriors. They were going to all the troops. Clashes were almost everywhere. Zishan couldn't believe her ears. The reports of the attacks were almost everywhere they could be. Zishan ordered to immediately send Zhuojian's army to help. They need to repel the enemy's attack. Another report came in. The Red Guard had returned and they were facing Shu Hongyu's warriors. Princess Zishan asked what the casualties were on the part of the Red Guard against the bloody barbarians. The subject said that thanks to the intelligence of their vice admiral, the Red Guard returned to camp without any casualties. Zishan was surprised that they made it back in one piece, but wanted to know what else they had been able to do so far. A subject said they stole the third prince of the Zhi dynasty, Shu Hongyu, alive. This news left everyone in shock, right down to Princess Zishan herself. To do such a thing was almost impossible. The subordinate told the guys that the 2 deputy generals had already verified the identity of the third prince, Shu Hongyu. He would be taken to Qingyi City. Also, the general had given the order to suspend the fall hunt. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun was to meet him. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun had nothing against it and went to meet with the general. Xiao Lan and Chen Shun came to the main hall and gave their greetings to Du Guxing and Jing Ming. Du Guxing revealed that he didn't expect such a quick success from Xiao Lan. He really exceeded all expectations. There were already many rumors about the guys since they killed the War King and captured the third prince of the Zhi dynasty. Besides, Xiao Lan's spirit had developed to a terrifying power. It seems sending them to war was a good decision. Jing Ming laughed and added that the guys were acting recklessly. Xiao Lan said that he would fool around with sorcery so that they wouldn't be exposed. Du Guxing replied that Xiao Lan had made a lot of noise. He was afraid that Xiao Lan might have some friends. It was necessary to avoid danger, but Du Guxing promised to prepare a gift for Xiao Lan. Xiao Lan agreed, and was happy to hear about the surprise that Uncle Du Guxing wanted to give Xiao Lan. Du Guxing added that there was good news. Jing Ming said that Xiao Dao had been promoted to combat commander. He had also awakened a spirit, protective battle shield. It was at least the highest ranked one. Xiao Lan was happy for his brother, and wanted to clarify about this matter with Du Guxing. Du Guxing said that such a spirit is very rare, and has a protective power that surpasses energy armor. Zhou Pingping and Dongfeng Bai are not his opponents, except for Grandpa Xiao Lan. Du Guxing added that Jingming could move him to the Mountain of Death. If he had free time, Xiao Lan could return to the hidden sect to see things for himself. Jingming added that they need to be careful when they return to the barracks. Xu Hongyu is the strongest disciple of the blood sect. The Shi dynasty will not let Xiao Lan go for nothing. Xiao Lan asked how a rookie could be the strongest disciple. Jingming said that all the royal family members of the Shi dynasty were followers of the blood sect, and the blood sect did not recognize alchemy. Already at the age of 7, Xu Hongyu was already recognized as the pinnacle of modern talent in the Z dynasty. Likewise, the third prince Xu Hongyu would soon inherit the throne of the Xie dynasty. Xiao Lan swept up what a jackpot he was able to grasp. Jingming said that he would get a huge reward for this, but also a lot of trouble, so he had to be careful. Xiao Lan replied that everything would be fine. Xiao Lan returned to the army barracks. Zuojiang congratulated Xiao Lan on his huge success catching the prince. Nai Qiang recognized Xiao Lan's awesomeness and added that he would recognize him personally. The others also added that the general himself had summoned him personally, and it was a great honor for him to do so. Xiao Lan expressed his gratitude. Nanggong Yue also walked over and asked Xiao Lan to show her his magic in private. Princess Longya also came and told Nanggong Yue to stay away from his vice commander. Nanggong Yue convinced that she just wanted to talk to Xiao Lan. Princess Longya also convinced Xiao Lan of her position, and Xiao Lan was caught between two bridges. A subject came to Xiao Lan and said that the princess had arranged a banquet for Xiao Lan personally. Xiao Lan went to the banquet. Others were surprised that the princess personally gave him a banquet. He was a level higher than Zuojiang. Of course, the princess had to treat Xiao Lan with respect. After all, he had captured the third prince. Nanggong was upset and said she would try next time. Xiao Lan finally came to Princess Zishan's backyard for her private banquet. She said that she was respectfully waiting for young Master Xiao Lan and smiled at him. Zishan congratulated Xiao Lan for capturing the prince and achieving such great success in the war. Xiao Lan thanked her for such flatteries. Princess Zisham decided to find out more about Xiao Lan's sorcery, as she had never heard of abilities like Xiao Lan's before. Xiao Lan said that sorcery was the power of summoning mountain gods that could shake the mountains and the world. But this technique was secret in the clan and could not be spread. Zishan couldn't believe that this was real. Xiao Lan said that the magic was real and added that Zishan might have doubted it. But these abilities were pure truth. Xiao Lan noticed that Zishan was suspicious of him. Zishan added that she and did not doubt his powers. It was just that such abilities were quite strong, and it was surprising that no one knew about them yet. Xiao Lan said that it was clear Zishan had not heard about it because Xiao Lan's clan kept it all a deep secret and away from other eyes. Xiao Lan added that he only decided to train because he was curious about it. After the fall hunt, he would return to his clan with Chen Xun. Zishan understood everything and apologized to Xiao Lan. It was impossible for her as a noble to understand this kind of thinking.